Recording.
Here I go recording again.
Here I go recording again on my own.
But
I got three buddies here with me. I'm not alone.
Faces, just recording with my friends. This D&D podcast.
These are all things.
Yeah.
These are all things. One of the twins. What's the excuse for one of the twins being out of action?
In the opening scene.
Where are you?
In the opening scene, Riley is going to bravely stay behind to fend off the undead beasts that are coming towards you in the tunnel so that you can go deeper in.
Ah.
Radford would never leave
Riley's
Riley
a cleric
behind.
and everything.
This is going to break my immersion.
Oh, no.
Never give up, never surrender. There, I got my voice. I'm back now. Jake,
Yes.
it is very important that I ask you this question.
Yeah.
Just remember, if you ask it right now, you're only going to get like 15 minutes to talk about it.
What?
What are your professional and film critic thoughts on Oppenheimer?
Oh. Who
He
has seen
lit
it?
up like a
I've
Christmas
not.
tree, just like I was hoping.
Wash, have you seen it?
I have not.
Oh, okay. Well, then I will give. I know it's funny because it's a historical movie, so it's funny to say like I'll give a spoiler free.
Oh, and then he invents a bomb.
I personally, it's my favorite film of the year so far.
Nice.
I absolutely loved it. I'm a huge Christopher Nolan fan, and I think that this plays to his strengths while also proving that he is like a generational auteur director that will be remembered. Like, this is like showing that his range and his like almost like palette of types of stories he can work with and make compelling is like way wider than I think people give him credit for.
Nice.
I think it's like I mean, when the credits rolled, I like felt like glued to my chair. Like, I just needed to like sit and think and ponder what I've just seen. Like,
Maybe a little
So
man's
definitely
tear.
better than the Mario movie. That's surprising.
yeah, a gazillion times better than the Mario
the
movie.
The real review I want is the Barbie movie.
I thought Barbie was fun. I don't think Barbie is for me. Like, I don't think I think the target audience of the Barbie movie is like girls or women who are now like in their late teens, early 20s, mid 20s, late 20s that grew up with Barbie.
Okay.
And therefore can empathize with a lot of the themes of the movie, as well as like get all the references of like all of the like niche, random, old, discontinued Barbies that used to exist.
Yeah.
But I think it's really funny. Like, I would give it like a 7 out of 10 for the fact that like I loved all of the humor in it, and I think the story is like well written and it's really funny and goofy and off the wall. But I know that like Caitlin and some of my other friends loved it a lot more than me because I feel like they could connect to it a lot more.
So is there like some strange behind the like curtain sort of connection between Barbie and Oppenheimer, or is it just that there's such stark like tonal differences that?
Well, it
people
became like Barbenheimer became like a meme because they're so starkly different and they came out on the same day. But the only like behind the scenes connection there is that Christopher Nolan's movies, all of his movies for like 15 years were distributed by Warner Brothers. He had a really good relationship with them, but he cut that relationship off during the pandemic because he didn't want Tenet going straight to streaming. He wanted it to be a movie theater, straight like only movie theater movie, and he had to fight really, really hard against Warner Brothers to make that happen. And even then, Tenet went on HBO Max like 2 weeks after it went into theaters. So he didn't like that, so he cut off his relationship with them after that. And now this is his first film distributed by Universal. And the rumors are that Warner Brothers wanted to put up another movie, in this case being Barbie, on the same day as Christopher Nolan's new movie to kind of compete with it and try to take money away from it and kind of be like, you ain't shit without us kind of thing. But it is funny. Yeah, I was gonna say, but it
unfortunate for him that it's Barbie because it seems like that one's actually been pretty successful.
But Oppenheimer still is performing above expectations. It's gonna have really good word of mouth because people really like it. And R-rated movies never do as well as PG-rated movies. Like
that's a good point.
That just never happens. But both movies have already made back their budget and more, like in the first weekend, and they're both performing over expectations. So I'm just happy that like I love Christopher Nolan, I love Greta Gerwig. I think they're both like insanely talented directors. I think I'm more partial towards Christopher Nolan, but I'm super glad that they both are having like successful movies right now that
Gotcha.
are doing really well.
It sounds like a pairing much like Animal Crossing and Doom.
Yes.
You know how like those two came out like
Yeah.
are released at the same time, so it's like they kind of got paired up together.
Exactly.
But
like
they're
that.
also like thematically juxtaposed as well, so there's a little bit of irony.
Yeah,
in there.
yeah. It's because I left Barbie like thinking that it was a really fun time, really funny movie, and I left Oppenheimer like wanting to like ponder death and like what the world is, and like yeah, they're both really good. I loved Oppenheimer more, I would say, but yeah,
Nice. Cool.
great movie experiences this weekend for me, for sure.
Have you seen The Sound of Freedom? I heard that it really blew up there for a long while too.
I have seen the Sound of Freedom discourse, if that makes sense. I that might be one that I see eventually. I haven't done enough research about it. I just know that there's been a lot of like controversy about it on like two diametrically opposed sides, about like a lot of people saying it's a very important movie and that like there's kind of some conspiracy theories about like the elite don't want you to see this movie.
Yeah.
And then another side being very like, you guys are just like making shit up, and also this movie isn't even that good anyways. Like there's like, so I don't know. I have not seen it. I have no comment on it necessarily because I just
Gotcha.
don't know much about it. But it is funny that the guy who played Jesus in what's that movie
Passion?
called? The Passion of the Christ is the main actor. I don't know why I find that funny, but anyway.
We are on the internet.
On the internet?
Just the loading screens.
Where? Where on
Hey,
the
look,
internet
it's me.
are we, Josh?
We're at
So, audience.
twitch.tv/Wingbadger Gaming.
Wow.
If you look on the very bottom left, all the way in front of where it says submit, there's a tiny little gray dot. That's me. I'm the little stone right there.
Oh,
Hi. I'm waving.
that's very existential. Like, we're all
What?
just gray stones in an endless beach.
It's my new poem, Pale Blue Stone. See that stone? That's me.
Now I see it. Now you see me? Maybe?
Now, maybe, perhaps you don't?
Maybe you do. Maybe you don't. I don't know. Maybe I'm a magician doing absolutely, like, immersion-breakingly complex card tricks to steal something.
Everyone is eventually a magician. That's what I always say.
Maybe I'm Tom Cruise doing close-up magic in the new Mission Impossible movie.
Maybe.
to fool bad guys.
I haven't seen the new Mission Impossible, but I saw the new Top Gun a little while ago.
I thought the new Top Gun was really good.
Yeah. What did you think, Josh?
I didn't realize until now that I've stumbled into talking about it with you, and I've been avoiding that because I think you won't like my opinion.
If you don't like a movie, that's okay, Josh.
I think the movie is executed in a way that is technically flawless. I think the footage is beautiful. I don't feel like it has any story. It's like,
that's also what Top Gun is. Like, have you seen the first Top Gun?
no, I haven't.
That movie has no story either.
Oh,
it's the
okay.
same.
So then maybe
in
that's
fact, I
fine.
would say the new Top Gun has more of a story than the old Top Gun.
I think it's a good video of people doing cool stuff in airplanes. You know,
I like
Yeah.
I like the second one more than the first one.
I think that's pretty easy to say. Like you could tell there's more effort put in on the second one. Like,
yeah.
there was a lot of heart put in and a lot of technical craft and like a lot of care behind like the authenticity of like what they're putting on screen.
Yeah.
I love both. Both of them are like easily like 4 out of 5, 4.5 out of 5 star movies for me. Like I love both of them a lot.
Gotcha.
But I think they're just like exhilarating. Both of them are. Like watching them is just like if there's kind of like secondhand feeling of like the joy of seeing someone like be like a daredevil in the sky. It's like the same feeling I get when I watch like a cool swinging sequence in a Spider-Man movie. Like,
I gotcha.
it's just cool.
And like, actual stuntmen are kind of a dying breed. I feel like the stuntman who's also the star of the movie.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's something kind of cool and authentic about seeing that, where it's like, you know,
And
he's
that-
actually in that plane, even if he's
Yeah.
not always the one flying and stuff like that.
And that's becoming a more and more like, I feel like that's being marketed a lot with the few people that still applies to, like Tom Cruise. That's always a big marketing push for whatever his next movie is, and Keanu Reeves with the John Wick movies.
Yeah.
There's always kind of
Oh.
a big push behind that, as far as like, you know, he's doing a lot of his own combat in that.
Every time I hear somebody talk about John Wick, I realize that I need to watch John Wick. I have not seen
I
any
saw
of
the
those.
fourth one recent, or the most recent one.
They're
recently.
on.
Yeah.
They're on one of the streaming platforms as like a package now, aren't they? The John Wick.
I'm not
movies?
sure. I have all the Blu-rays.
I
They're great.
I thought it was on like HBO Max or something like that. Like, 'cause I remember scrolling through one of them, because I have access to a few of them, and then I was like, "Oh, sweet! I'll do like a John Wick marathon." And then a
Yeah.
week went by, and then they were gone, and I like they're not on anything that I have.
Gotcha.
So
I finished watching
just-
the show Suits 2 days before it left Prime Video. And I didn't know it was leaving, so
I
I
say
was
now it's on Netflix.
it's like
yeah.
one of those moments where you like look at something and go, "Wow, I did that just in time," but I didn't feel
Yeah.
any of the pressure or panic of doing it just in time because I had no idea.
Yeah.
Just about to finish season 7.
It's a good show.
It is a good show.
I had a lot
buy
of fun with
physical,
it.
everybody. The
Yes.
the digital streaming era is getting,
It's back to
as
just
we
being
all
cable.
feared back in the day. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
We're going back to like needing to pirate things because there's just too many.
I saw a really funny post on Threads that probably came from one of the other ones first, and I got reposted on Threads, where someone was like, streaming companies need to realize that their entire existence is sustained only by the fact that they're slightly more convenient than piracy.
Yep.
It's like, well,
I mean that's
it's true.
that was Steve Jobs' whole thing, was that piracy was a delivery problem, and if you could make a product more convenient than piracy, people were willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
And when he made iTunes, it was like, hey, this is it. Like, we don't have to, because this is literally easier. And then Netflix
and then
did the same
Spotify
thing.
made it really even easier when it came to music.
Yeah.
And like
Like
yeah.
exactly. And now it's just like, wow. Well,
I'd say I could turn my webcam to my shelves. You can see. I mean, I'm a big physical media enthusiast.
Yeah.
I love
I would say
Blu-rays. I
maybe
love
with the-
physical books.
Maybe with the notable exception of Crunchyroll. When it comes to anime, I feel like they still have everything.
yeah, I don't think
yeah.
that there's a lot of competitors to Crunchyroll in the anime space.
Or at least serving anime to the United States in that way.
Yeah, maybe that's
maybe
it.
Probably,
maybe
yeah.
in Japan there's more competition
probably.
within, but well, yeah, because I mean the whole thing about what's happening with streaming services now is just like
Chad says it's
media
hard to find
distributors. Barnes and Noble is a good place to find manga, but I feel like that's one of the last places, and it's always the same stuff. I feel like.
Hey, look, it's me buying the first season of manga, walking out of the store. Oh, you can't see me because we're on the loading screen. I'm holding my hands really, really wide.
We can cut to cameras a minute early. That's
I mean,
not a big deal.
I think conventions are really good for like manga, like going to anime conventions and stuff.
Oh, sure.
You can get a lot of niche stuff.
I'd say I'm lucky that there's a place called Entertain Mart that's literally 5 minutes from where my apartment is now.
What a name.
That sells, yeah, it's great. They have used movies, used games, and used comics, and used manga. They have a lot of manga. They have more manga than they have like American comics. And so they have a lot of cool stuff. They have like cool hardcover collector's editions of manga that I don't even read.
Oh, nice.
And it makes it tempting for me to want to read them just
'Cause
to
they look
have
good
a
on a
cool
shelf.
hardcover. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know nothing about this. I don't know anything about Berserk, but does the cool hardcover collector's edition look sweet? Yes.
Yeah.
You don't want to own...
I've heard
That's the
that
thing.
Berserk is very good, but it's very heavy.
Chat's
Yeah,
talking
and I
about
don't
how
mean it like
manga
a-
takes up so
I
much
mean content.
space. Like they don't want to own manga. They would just like to read it and give it back. And the library
But you-
doesn't usually have very much.
you don't want to have. I love having a cool shelf or a big shelf where I look at the stuff that I've read or seen.
Mine are all full of minis.
I think maybe considering, like, you're saying it'd be cool to have a single cool shelf. I agree. A single cool shelf might be great, but that's like the first season of Fruits Basket. Like, when it comes to manga,
Or
you
like,
know,
see
you're
my-
talking
see my
about
bookshelf?
a wall of shelves.
Ceiling to floor of One Piece.
Well, that's the thing is like manga always comes in these like small format pages versus at least with comic books I can have like American comics I can have an omnibus which is an entire run of a writer and artist like on a comic that's like got like 3 years worth of stuff, but it doesn't take up that much space because it can be tall too.
Yeah.
As opposed to you know like
It's because you got to
Chat,
be
what
able
you
to
need to
write.
do-
It's because you have to be able to draw all your manga pages while you're sitting on a train in the rain with lo-fi music playing. That's how
That's true.
all
That's how
manga
they all
is
do it.
That's
drawn,
what
I
it
believe.
is. That's
That's
that makes
the
so much
technique.
sense.
Yeah.
yeah.
Usually with
Chat,
like
what
some
you need
kind
to
of
do is
flower
you just
imagery.
need to buy. Just need to buy manga, and then donate it to your library for the next person, and like
There you go.
start a little group where people like buy up manga, read through them, and then donate them, and then you guys can just like swap and share and stuff.
You want the shelf of manga, or should we double it and give it to the next person?
I bet you can find like online groups and communities where people do exchange things like that.
Chat says they've done that with Shonen Jump.
Oh, there you
Oh,
go.
nice. That makes sense.
Oh, nice.
Man, I as a 13-year-old got like a couple like monthly copies of Shonen Jump and thought it was the coolest thing ever, but did not continue.
I think you're the coolest thing ever.
Oh, thanks,
Especially if you're
John.
reading Shonen Jump.
Wow.
Whoa.
Wow.
Wow.
Got him.
I think you guys are the coolest things ever.
Aw. Chat, you may have noticed that Cleo is not joining us this evening. That is because Cleo is feeling a bit under the weather, so she will not be with us tonight. Instead, and this has absolutely nothing to do with the ritual sacrifice that took place at her house that we all were somehow there for. But this is not related to that. This is separate from.
Studies have
It's a
shown
different thing.
that ritual sacrifices never have anything to do with like any sort of feelings or effects that could be negative.
Yeah, 9 out of
afterwards,
10
so.
dentists agree.
They only give positive effects. That's actually why people do them.
Right. Yeah.
That's
the-
because
the
I had a
positive
ritual
impact.
sacrifice I did way back in the day that negated all of those, and ever since then, they've only been positive effects. So you're welcome for that one.
Gotcha.
That one was-
I exist because
Opprobriums.
of a ritual
Is-
sacrifice.
I don't know that username. This
Oh.
might be your first time here. Hello, Opprobriums. You did that with the
That
Dead
is
Sea
Belly
Scrolls.
Savalis.
Oh, really? He changed
That-
it up.
Yeah, so
Belly switched
so-
it up.
Let me call out Belly real quick because he was in my chat the other day and telling me about this. I changed his name to like mess with the streamer and then didn't realize he's stuck with it for 2 months. So everybody feel free to hop on that joke train for his Twitch name.
Yeah, I'd like to
until he
welcome
gets
this
to change
new
it 2 months
user
from now.
to the Wing Badger Gaming stream here. We'll call you Appa. Did that with the Dead Sea Scrolls, but then that big fire happened. in
welcome
Alexandria, and I
Oppenheimer
didn't get my
Brum.
Scrolls back.
Welcome Oppenheimer Brooms to the chat.
Yeah, Barbenheimer over here in the chat became a victim of my own aggravating nature when the troll gets trolled by just the way that things are. Speaking of the way that things are, in case you don't remember where we left off last time, I'm going to need all of you to roll initiative.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Here it goes.
here it
Bad
is.
guys are coming through. They're coming through to you.
Oh, I'm feeling a little tuckered out after all that stuff, guys.
I am as well. Although this is
Got
a
a
promising
9.
sign that we are on the right track. I had a 4.
You two were in the bottom of initiative last time.
Seems to be a pattern forming.
It's a patient defense. I'm meditating. I'm taking it all in so I can react properly.
I got a 9.
All right. Well, luckily for you all, Riley rolled a 16. So you are
There you go.
standing on this outcropping of rock. Behind you, the rushing sound of the waterfall pouring is the only real indicator that you've had some verticality change, right? At the end of the last session, you basically fell down a geyser with style and defeated some kind of shadow creation that we believe was from the plane of limbo and had been brought here in some way. You killed that creature with the assistance of a Tinkali And just as you're kind of recovering from that fight, you've fallen 500 feet. 500 feet. You're standing on the ruins of this arcane sigil that's been disrupted. You look down the tunnel to the side of you, and you see the shadowy forms shuffling towards you of the adventurers who were killed before you got here, who have been risen by this arcane circle as necromantic puppets, and who are now shuffling, sloughing their way towards you. Weird kind of groan noises echoing through the darkness of the cave as they come even with you. It's less a coordinated attack and more a swarm just kind of pushing through your direction, trying to muscle the group of you towards the edge. I would like each of you to narratively describe for me the way that you are in combat, either operating as a group or operating solo, but build the scene out here. We've got about 60 seconds, maybe 90 seconds we'll spend on this, building out the scene of how you're fighting. And as you do that, I'd like you to describe your character for the chat or for those listening on Spotify. And at the end, I will bring Riley into the equation as well.
So Alan is going to get up from where he was kneeling at the arcane sigil, kind of studying it, and he and the rest of the group were kind of theorizing about where this creature could have come from. He gets up and he looks out at the undead shuffling towards them, and he steps forward, and he's got these big thick glasses that he's wearing. He's got this long mane of blonde hair. He's a very muscular guy. He's got a big tool belt with suspenders on. He's not wearing a shirt underneath those suspenders. He's wearing like fur briefs underneath his tool belt, and he's got these fur boots that he's wearing. And then on his belt, he's got an assortment of things, including a piece of the Rod of Seven Parts and lots of different tools. But also he has on his belt what would look like to us like a pistol that's been kind of made out of iron and kind of carved and like formed in a certain way where it looks like the muzzle of the pistol is like a dragon's head that is it's got its mouth opened up. He draws the pistol, and like the cracks in the details in the iron on the pistol start to glow red, and he points it at the undead, ready to fire his Eldritch Cannon flamethrower when he has the chance, kind of as like a first line of defense.
Hey, I'm Wash. I play Radford the White. He's a white, scaly, dragonborn monk. And as Owlin's doing this, Radford is he's wearing these really light flowy open vest with like the sleeves ripped off, baggy flowy pants, something that's easy to move in. He has he wears these sandals that have these two wooden teeth off the bottom, these Japanese geta, and he's got this huge gourd and bedroll on his back, and he is going to get down in front of Owlin on the ground, and he's just going to throw out this huge swath of ice breath and try to freeze the feet of the undead in place.
So, Zop, after studying the runes, he would have fluttered up onto Radford's shoulder to prepare, because that seems to be better for like the party is sticking together. So he's gonna stand there, and he's like frightened, but he's trying to hide his frightenedness with like courage and like be brave. So he's like preparing to cast a spell. And then he's in his nice button-down brown belt, khakis, and he like always uses prestidigitation to like keep it pristine and clean.
Very nice. So you're standing in this waterlogged cave at the bottom of a geyser with a tunnel extending off into the dark of who knows where, and somehow your clothes are like pressed and clean.
Yes.
I love that. And as the three of you stand there, Owlin with the sort of red glow of his flamethrower illuminating his face, and Radford with the kind of blue shimmery reflection of the ice catching the sunlight as it bounces off the geyser behind you down the cavern and then off the ice, kind of reflecting his face. and maybe between the two of you on the ground, we have Zop standing there ready for action, ready to cast a spell. For the moment, you don't realize that Riley has not stepped forward to fight with you. Riley, the other Wheatling member of the party, small, tiny, diminutive creature with kind of papery wings and grassy or wheat-like hair that kind of spirals out of her head, has sat down cross-legged on the ground with her head bowed and her hands clasped around a holy symbol that she carries with her. And she seems to be thinking or maybe preparing herself internally. And so as the first wave of this undead swarm comes towards you, she is not involved in the initial fight. She's, a few feet behind you. As that first wave rushes towards you, rushing as much as an undead can, shambles towards you, kind of building up speed by nature of being a mob, shoving each other out of the way. They block the full tunnel's width, and so they're just this hulking mass of darkness. And as they get close enough that the very subtle light of Owlin's flame-based weapon can illuminate them, you recognize that these are other adventurers. You see gnomes and elves and dwarves that have fallen in battle, each with some kind of awesome war wound, whether they've been maimed through the chest or they've got burn marks or scorch marks or whatever, asphyxiation around the neck. They're all shambling towards you, trying to fight, trying to push you back towards the arcane sigil, which is when they trigger all of your attacks. This is essentially a mob of mooks, so for the sake of coolness, I would like each of you to describe your first reaction and what it does to the swarm of mooks, and then we'll kind of come around to the next level of combat here. We can start with Owlin, maybe.
Yeah, Owlin's Eldritch Cannon fires, and it has a 15-foot cone of flame that just, incinerates anything in its path. He doesn't get to use this very often because Owlin we're not usually in crowd control situations, but Owlin is excited to use this, and it cuts through, that cone just cuts through this wide mass of undead and just burns up anything in that 15-foot cone.
And them being a mob, it's not just the initial front line that you hit. As they kind of char and fall to the ground, becoming once more corpses, those behind them trip or fall, and it almost is like a dog pile effect. And so as Owlin just continues spraying side to side, the pile gets bigger until the bodies are climbing over the corpses in front of them to continue attacking you, which is when Radford gets involved in the fight.
We haven't seen Radford do this, but I think it's about time for him to break this out. It seems like he needs to keep himself with a little bit of distance. He doesn't want to get in there with his fists. So you see him take his walking stick, and he kind of holds it sideways out in front of him and pulls it, and it breaks into 3 different pieces with little chains in between, and turns into this 3-stick. And he's just shoom, 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 swinging it up and around at a distance and just cracking dudes in the heads, spam, 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 up and down, with this 3-stick connected with chains in the two centers.
That's dope. And as Radford now is basically holding the line, we've got this half-cover barricade that the creatures are having to shamble over. Radford is right there in their face, getting them all knocked down and continuing basically to just add to this pile of the dead. That's when Zopf gets involved. Zopf, talk to us about how you're entering this fight.
So Zopf, out of spell slots for the time being, can only cast his main damage cantrip of Eldritch Blast, but he gets 2 beams of it. And this will be a cackling energy that streaks towards the creatures that are in the front. So it'll be 1, 2, or 2 on the same one if the first one doesn't die from the first beam.
Awesome. And so with a there's this blast of energy, this force energy, and not only is Zopf able to continue kind of knocking out the undead who are coming towards you, because it's force energy, Zopf is able to blast a little tunnel aside for you in the pile of corpses. And so for just a moment, they're kind of shunted to the left and right, and there's a window straight down the middle that you could run through beyond the rest of the corpses. They've reached full sort of pile saturation. They're no longer extending down the tunnel. They're all in this crammed area. And it's in that moment when Riley steps forward to enter the fight. Riley, having risen to almost head height for the barbarian Owlin. Even though she's tiny, she's kind of flutters up to that height and kind of smoothly moves forwards with her hands outstretched, and she yells back to the three of you, "Go! I will hold them off. This is my part." And you see the holy symbol in her hand begin glowing with radiant energy, and all of you recognize the symptoms of a turn undead beginning. And she is going to try and hold the zombies in place and keep them fixated on her with that radiant, bright energy so that you can run past them unharmed. Are you going?
Alan will turn briefly and say, we will be back as soon as we can to help you. We
Sister,
appreciate your sacrifice.
I'll catch up. Just go without me.
Sister.
Always. And then she begins the act of turning the undead, and you see these kind of waves of radiant energy rippling out from her as you run past through the tunnel she's created between all these undead corpses, all these corrupted former adventurers. You rush past, and with that, we begin another adventure at the Wing Badger Tavern, and we'll be right back.
Zanir, Gaunteus, Kotix, Awara. Long ago, the four ancients created a world in harmony. Then, everything changed when the chat emped magic. Only Kelnor, master of good vibes, could stop them, but when the world needed him most, he vanished. 2 years have passed, and four adventurers have discovered a conspiracy, a company selling magic. And although their roleplay is great, they have a lot of XP to earn before they're ready to save anyone. But I believe they can save the world.
It's like a dope Avatar thing where my wife did the Katara voiceover, and it's really accurate. She killed it, and then you didn't get to hear it. So I guess you have no choice but to like watch it on YouTube later, or check us out on anywhere you get podcasts as Wing Badger Tavern. Anyway, all that being said, we're going to jump back into our adventure here. And so as you rush down the tunnel, leaving behind you the sounds of kind of shimmering radiant energy, the groaning of corpses as they are returned to their dead state, their kind of neutral passive state, the flickers of golden energy slowly fade off of the walls around you. The walls here are crystalline and stone and chiseled, not by creatures, but rather by the corrosive power of the geyser behind you. At one point in time, this geyser was divinely amplified in such a way where it was almost like it was rust that was coming out of the geyser, and it cut like a knife through the rusty mountains the whole way to the city of Nowood. And so as you follow this tunnel, at some point you know that it's going to end out in the city of Nowood. You know that you're headed in the right direction, but for now, you're stuck in the dark, and I'm going to need someone to make a survival check. You can make it normally because you have a map, so we'll cancel out the disadvantage of the darkness.
Well, Alan can also, he'll cast light on something that's convenient for... He had that torch earlier. Yeah, he'll cast light again on that torch.
Cool.
Here, you can have this back.
One day, Alan's going to have his big heroic sacrifice moment, and we'll know because he'll actually light this torch instead of casting light on it.
Well, it's reusable that way.
It's very pragmatic.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was my goal with it. Alan can roll survival.
Okay.
18.
18. With an 18, Alan's able to find the right direction, but there's still because of the corrosive nature of the water, the tunnel is always sloping downwards, and it does every now and then kind of fork in like a Y shape whenever the tunnel would hit something stronger than normal, stone, maybe an iron deposit or something like that. The water would just kind of corrode around it, and then you have little branches and things like that. And so as you're following those, you get the sense that it'll probably be another day or two before you make it the whole way to the city of Nowood. And so for the moment, you have a chance to, one, rest if you're going to take it, or otherwise roll me some con saves to deal with your fatigue as you rush towards Nowood and hopefully the trapped avatar of the god Zanir, who this whole adventure is about.
No, yeah, I think we would want to rest and maybe see if we can find like sort of an outcropping in the rock that we can use as like a little off to the side space where we can rest.
Absolutely. The first day passes, I think, uneventfully. Let's roll the tension pool. Yep, the first day passes uneventfully as you move through the darkness, and you're able to find yourself a nice place to kind of set up shop and watch. If you want any kind of like dialogue between the characters or processing things you've learned, this would be a great time to do it before we continue pressing on our adventure.
Well,
I hope Sister is okay.
I hope that as well. I think, as we got cut off before, I think it bodes well for us that Do Bumblefoot would still be here if somehow the necromancer was drawing power to cast spells from that arcane sigil. So we are on the right path, and I just want to reaffirm everyone in that.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about Dew.
That is
Like having her symbol was a little disturbing.
that is. I agree, and I wish that I wasn't so easily deceived by it. I felt as though once I saw that holy symbol that would have been someone trustworthy, but obviously they took it from an actual acolyte of Dew, and that makes me wonder in what state we are going to find the city of Nowood.
Have rescuing all of the avatars been like this?
Yes.
This is my first one.
In my experience, yes. It has always been extremely dangerous. We will likely have to kind of scout the outskirts of whatever compound the aboleths have made here, and see what our best plan of infiltration is. And it will not be easy, and we will likely face insurmountable odds. And the last time that we did this, we lost a lot, and we lost one of our own. So I'm hoping that we are more prepared this time, and that we know what we're dealing with. But
What happened? Like, was it avoidable, or is it something like we could take preventative measures for?
Yeah, boss. I don't think you've ever... Well, you remember you telling a little bit about it.
It's a situation where Jeb was the planner. I know that in this scenario right now, I have kind of taken that role. But before I kind of have felt like I needed to fill in, Jeb was the one who came up with the ideas and gave us direction as to where to go, and we all trusted him, and I mean, he never broke that trust. He was a risk taker, but he was calculated. And in this scenario, he took on the brunt of the task of saving the Avatar that we were after. And in that case, it was just too much. We were too divided. We were all different places when the aboleths attacked, and when everything kind of collided in on itself, and Jeb sacrificed himself for the mission to succeed, but that was it. It was a sacrifice. Fox even lost a leg in that process.
Do you guys have a record keeper?
I believe that we do. I'm not sure if we have someone in a record-keeping official capacity, as if someone whose job title is record keeper. I'm sure. Yeah, writes down some of the things that we have done, and that we, for accounting reasons, need to keep track of the things that we've done. But
well, I can take on the role at least for this adventure as long as I'm with you guys. It's kind of my job. Not really.
Yes.
It's important to remember history.
I appreciate that. I think that would be a great addition to what we do, and I agree. It's important to remember and to have record of the sacrifices that people make in this process, because this is possibly the most important journey in the world, and Jeb is the reason why we're here now, continuing on.
Continuing on echoes back to you down the dismal cave, almost taunting you in the fact that you stopped for the night, bringing back to mind all the time pressures of the fact that it's been, 6 months since you had good intelligence on the state of the world. Another maybe half a month that you've been traveling, and who knows what you're going to find at the end of this. You know where the Avatar is imprisoned in this city, but you have no idea what state she'll be in, if she'll be okay or not. And as those uneasy thoughts are creeping in, you're beginning to replay the events of the last 24 hours, and especially this fight with this kind of shade or shadow creature or whatever it is that was in the woods that kind of ambushed you. And you in the moment you were able to identify, like, this is magic from the plane of limbo, but you didn't stop to consider the greater implications of, like, what might it mean for something from the plane of limbo to be here. Like, were they able to bring it through? Like, is there some kind of planar connection that still exists? Because the understanding that we have is that there is no planar connection, and more to the point, how were they able to give it necromantic powers? By what means was it able to, corrupt these adventurers to raise them from the dead? And as you're thinking about that, you don't necessarily come to a conclusion, at least not for free, not without some rolls, but you get the idea that, you get maybe a hint that perhaps the chat might have spurred the GM on into giving you. You're kind of thinking about it, and it occurs to you that the arcane batteries that you saw at the last site where this energy was being harvested from an avatar, this is the kind of thing that you might be able to use them for. A ritual circle that's, it's scrawled on the ground, it's left in a certain position, and there must be some way to trigger it, to activate it. And so if it's not connected to the weave, it's got to connect to something. And so you get the idea that something like that, some kind of storage facility or some means of transferring energy that's in, kinetic energy that's been temporarily locked into something. Maybe there's something to that. Maybe there's something like that involved in the necromantic energy that's happening. You are confident that there is still no greater access to the weave in the world. The instant discovery and ramifications of that would have been apparent right away. So whatever is going on, that it's not that.
Could I roll an Arcana?
Sure. What would you like to learn about?
Like the plane of limbo and how it could be how people could be, like, using magic and connecting to it.
Okay. I'm not going to make you roll because we talked about what the plane of limbo is in the last session. Somebody else already discovered this information, but I'll give you a refresher. The plane of limbo is one of the outer planes, right? There's all the different outer planes, and each one has kind of its own energy. The plane of limbo is known for its chaos energy. So if you were to just visit the plane of limbo, you would be just surrounded by spontaneous, chaotic manifestations. In fact, most adventurers who go there don't survive more than 2 or 3 minutes because they spontaneously burst into flame or turn into a bunch of doves, or lightning strikes them, or the ground beneath them suddenly rends and they're in water and they drown. All these random things that happen. The only way to survive there is to take advantage of what the God of Order, Zanir, did at one point in just utter frustration in historical past. He threw this sort of concentric ball of law into the plane of limbo. And his idea was that this thing should impose order on the plane of limbo. So it was utter chaos versus utter order. And the two things, rather than evening out in the center, there are now just two pendulums, where one of them is so orderly that all of the chaotic manifestations happen at once, and it's instant death. And one of them is so chaotic that only one of them can ever exist in the same point, and that's pretty much instant death. However, between those two, there is a middle ground that is available for travelers. And so a savvy adventurer can actually maintain a level of mental fortitude that will create a bubble of reality in the plane of limbo. And you can shape that bubble of reality as long as you have the focus for it. You can shape that reality however you want. The idea of these creatures seems to have been similar. Something with an incredible amount of mental acuity and power was able to shape the chaos energy of limbo into this kind of hulking shadow creature, and then bring that creature here, and then somehow maintain that concentration once the creature was here. Right? Chaos energy wants to return to entropy, so there must have been something actively forcing that creature back into being. And whatever that would be, it would have to be an incredibly powerful intellect with a hugely wide-ranging level of power that could span, I mean, maybe miles, who knows. But whatever that creature is, must have been able to keep this shade or this shadow creature kind of formed as it directed it or as it went about its business.
Okay.
Do you share that? Do you share? I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. If what you theorize is true, then I believe it to be more than likely that at least one Aboleth is here somewhere. I'm actually surprised now that we've been through the geyser and such that we haven't seen any of the signature gray goo along these cave walls yet. But I'm sure we will as we get closer.
Josh, would Zop have any knowledge on the Aboleths?
No, not from the city of Oat.
I would say Alan can fill Zop in
Yeah.
off screen, like everything that Alan knows.
Sure.
Cool.
So are we continuing on our journey?
After, I mean, if we need to go through the motions of like assigning a watch for the long rest or whatever,
Nah, you don't need
that's
to.
fine. Okay.
So we the first night passes mostly uneventfully. You're kind of tucked into a nook. You do keep probably a tense watch for the night, rotating between the three of you. Riley does not catch up or rejoin the group in this first night. And the next morning, you kind of are faced with the decision of going back or pushing forward, and wanting to kind of honor the sacrifice and a little bit trusting in your other adventuring partner. You push forwards. And so you again enter the tunnel network, diving deeper into the darkness. Do all of you have dark vision?
No.
So only Alan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Zop
It's possible.
does not.
So it makes sense that Alan is leading then.
Yeah, and Alan can hand the torch to someone who doesn't have, like, one of
Cool.
the other two.
Yeah, so Alan kind of steps forward to take the lead. The other two of you are basically in, a 15-foot radius circle of light. And beyond that, there's just darkness. The 15-foot circle radius is big enough for you to see to the edge of the tunnel on both sides. This is a narrow tunnel. For the most part, you're either moving single file or maybe two abroad. Although for the tiny weakling Zopf, that doesn't mean very much. As you push deeper into the tunnel, you are again kind of reinforced in your direction by the fact that it starts to widen, as if you're now reaching into a piece that maybe is forcibly made by creatures. You're starting to see the hallmarks of a race enforcing their will on what nature would do. The tunnel begins to turn into something more orderly, and most importantly, it stops going down, and it begins sloping across with some actually ingenious architectural construction where it's sort of almost like a roller coaster where the natural construction is passively using gravity to keep the water moving. It's almost like a very, very primitive pump type system that would have kept the water at the time that this whole tunnel was submerged, would have kept the water moving towards the city of Nowood. You come to the second night, and again, in search of a place to stay, I'm going to roll a tension die. And you do find another little kind of hovel off to the side, but you are not the first to rest in this hovel. As you come around the corner and you look deeper into what can only amount to maybe a 40-foot kind of dent in the wall, maybe a workroom for the people who at one point kind of built this aqueduct, there is a quite dead creature, laying there, probably 3 to 5 months dead. The skeleton not yet exposed under the decaying flesh, laying among their kind of rusted and dusty possessions.
Is it a humanoid?
Yes, it's a humanoid.
Is it easy? Can we identify, like, what variety of humanoid?
Yeah, why don't you roll survival?
Okay.
Can Zop rummage through the things?
Sure. Why don't you roll investigation?
17 on survival.
Okay. You can identify that this humanoid was, in fact, just a human.
Okay.
And they were a average build, probably 6 foot, maybe 5'11", and they there's some kind of like a robe or toga or something like that, but it's pretty tattered and shredded up. There's a huge gash directly over the heart that goes the whole way through the human, and so he's, that's probably the wound that killed him. And he has a like a fabric sigil that Owlin does not recognize on his robe. As Owlin is looking at this, Zopf has begun kind of flitting through the pile of possessions laying around. Zopf, what did you roll?
18.
18. Zopf, you find like there are a number of generic adventuring tools that, just over time kind of go bad, rusting or corroding. Like the ball bearings have all kind of corroded together to form a weird mass. You can tell that wherever this fight happened that killed the creature, there was a lot of water. Because all of their stuff is like truly rusted and corroded and ruined. There's a sword that's been broken in half over time as the rust kind of ate right through the center of the blade. You also find a waterlogged journal, like where they might have kept personal notes. And as you flip through, there might be a handful of pages in there upon further study that you could still make out what's on the pages. You also find a sigil of Zanir, the god that Do Bumblefoot is the avatar of. It's just like a small little token or amulet, on a little chain. The chain, of course, is also rusted through, but the token itself is made of wood, and so it seems to be mostly fine. That's what you find.
Alan will show Zopf the patch that was on the toga, I think, is that what you said? That's the thing that I didn't recognize. I don't recognize this symbol. Do you know it?
Can I roll a history?
Yeah, you can roll a history for it, but it won't actually matter what you roll, because as you're looking at it, Radford, leaning maybe over Alan's shoulder to look at it, Radford, you recognize the sigil of the Society of the Silver Sky.
Oh my.
I am unfamiliar with that sigil.
I am as well. Radford, do you know it?
Do I notice anything, before I answer that, do I notice any signifiers of station or anything like that on the toga? Or
the toga is too kind of tattered and torn from its fight for you to see. There would normally be like a sort of symbol that goes around the guild house sigil, and that would indicate their rank. That part has been torn, so you're not really able to determine the creature's rank.
Can I do a medicine check real quick to see how long it's been dead?
Absolutely.
That's a lot. 19.
The creature has been dead 5.5 months, almost to the day. And the cause of death is obviously the puncture wound directly through the heart. But in addition, you find signs of asphyxiation by a metal object. And so it seems that during the fight, something metal was wrapped around this creature's neck, and it was being asphyxiated before the killing blow was delivered. The killing blow is too thick to have been one of the sharp tentacles of an aboleth. It was some kind of sharp metallic weapon, and you can see little traces of, the scratches and the jagged edges that indicate, again, that this was not like a natural blade. This was something that kind of mauled its way through the creature.
In Radford's travels and studies and kind of being a part of the groups that he's been a part of, has he ever encountered shadow creatures?
No.
I do
Josh.
recognize it. Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Could I use prestidigitation to clean up the waterlog journal and then begin reading through it, like skimming?
Absolutely. And I'll give you the first. You can roll investigation, but I'm going to give you one of the pages for free because of your prestidigitation. But then investigation will determine how many more of them I give you. So you can't
Okay.
fail this check, but the better you roll, the more things you learn.
Okay. I got a 15.
Okay. I'm going to DM you some stuff that you find on the pages while the rest of the players are
Cool.
going about their business.
Radford looks a little sad. He was one of my colleagues at the Silver Sky. And he kind of drops
had
down
no
to his
idea.
knees. Yeah, you wouldn't have known. I don't talk about it that much, but I don't know what he would have been out here this far away doing.
What's the Silver Sky?
It's I don't really do much with them anymore. I've kind of taken going my own path, but it's the place where I received my training and spent a lot of my youth trying to pursue law and order and balance. They
Will like flutter over onto your shoulder and just kind of like hug your head or neck.
Oh, I appreciate that. I'm fine. It's been a while since I've seen the uniform and well, I mean, just kind of putting a couple things together, and he kind of like taps his rock hard abs and he's like, "We're pretty capable." So, I'm really kind of concerned with what took this guy down.
That does seem foreboding. Is it likely that he was of a similar martial training as yourself? Similar set
Yeah.
of skills?
Yeah. So, kind of the way that it works is once our training is done, we travel the world and look for grievances and injustices, and when we find one that really resonates with us, we like take it on as our own, and we mete out the justice for it. So, whatever he was here for had to have been significant.
Yes.
And he kind of like, I don't know, kind of like mentally draws like some lines and some like he's kind of like going over the crime scene a little bit, mentally drawing out and in his vision with his finger. It wasn't successful, which means that whatever it was is still out there.
Right. I have officially sent all the stuff that Zopf is able to learn from the journal.
This journal has some information in it, guys.
Oh, what you got there?
I'll put it in the chat and then I'll say everything so you guys can read it as I'm describing it.
Okay.
This is probably great for the audio-only experience.
Yeah.
We're getting there.
So, the city has been overgrown, and there's like sunlight peeking through, but it's like blocking out a lot of the sun. Every morning, creatures come to torture the Avatar, and these are the batteries that they're charging. That they bring with them, and they're carried away by Dragonel through the roof of the city. And then 5
dude.
months ago, the team increased size and firepower, traveling with strange, darkened creatures armed with chains wrapped around their arms.
This sounds about correct with what we were theorizing last night. It is an interesting wrinkle that they are able to bring batteries to be charged and take them elsewhere for other uses. I hadn't even considered that to be an option. I would have assumed that they were trying to build some sort of underground network to relay the power that they were drawing from the avatars through some sort of underground system rather than simply charging and moving different
Isn't
batteries.
that what you guys said they were doing at the Umbral Sea, though? They were transporting stuff.
They were transporting things, I guess. Perhaps I hadn't even considered that they were transporting the batteries. I just know that there were the different clusters of batteries being charged, and I assumed that they were either there as a part of the relay or just for other uses throughout the base. But you're correct. That makes sense. I thank you for drawing that conclusion from something I described I hadn't even considered.
I'm a wise old man, Alan.
It also says that Dew is encased in a magic circle on the pedestal that once served as the town square, like an offering on an altar beneath the scale of stars.
That is consistent with what we found before, and with Dew being trapped in the center of town, that means we will be sitting ducks if we go for a full-scale assault, or whenever we try to spring Dew, we will have to draw fire or draw attention perhaps elsewhere.
I think if we can get in, destroy the circle, and get out, that would probably be the best. Like, we don't need to fight everything, we just need to get out with.
This is true.
Having heard the journal entry about the creatures with chains wrapped around their arms, it's reasonable to connect the dots that this adventurer that you found is probably killed by those chains, you know, with one maybe wrapped around its throat and then the other punched straight through its heart.
Wash knew that. Just for the record. Wash knew that. Radford didn't.
That I wonder if those creatures are more of these limbo beasts or shades.
I think we should assume that they are.
That is a safe assumption. Or an unsafe assumption, depending on how you look at things.
DM.
Yep.
In Radford's investigation of this, like now that he's kind of reactivated older parts of his brain being with the Society of the Silver Sky, and as he kind of like goes into Batman Arkham Asylum crime scene mode, can he like assess the area here and try to like pick up traces of the battle that happened? I know it's old, but with two creatures of this amount of power, there has to be telltale signs in the terrain of like where they came from, how they ended here, stuff like that.
Yeah, roll justify a check and then roll it with advantage because you were part of the guild. Justify one of your skills.
Well, if he holds L2, his richer senses activate, so I think that's justification enough.
I'm gonna hold L2 and activate my sensors. No, what he's going to do is think of something really quick, Wash. Think of something really quick. I know what he's gonna do. He's gonna light some incense. And he is going to make a religion check to feel the vibe in the area.
I like it.
And so he starts going through almost like a form in martial arts, and he's like slowly, like, this is not chill Kelnor Radford. He's now very rigid in his form, and the smoke from the incense, he's like waving it around and trying to get a sense of like air pressure and movement, but he's also like focusing his ki. He's starting to build and blend in the essence of the world, the checking of the vibes through Kelnor, and understanding not just like him as himself being in the world of Urada, but his now connection with the world and his environment, and the two moving together.
It's not all obvious to you, but you're definitely able to figure out parts of the tale. As you begin to swirl the smoke around you, to the others, it looks just like you're moving your hand through smoke. There's not anything apparent to see, but in the dim light of Owlin's torch, to you, the smoke begins to take on shapes as you kind of look through you almost use the smoke as a lens. And so as you look through with the newly channeled spirit energy of your ki, and you kind of waft it around the room, you begin to trace the scratch marks on the walls. You start to recognize the whooshing of chains as they would have scraped across the wall. You begin to see in the rivets on the ground the drags, as the drag marks as a creature drags this body in here, delivers the killing blow, and leaves it. You watch as a kind of strange divot on the far side of the room becomes revealed to you as a splash of corrosive acid that is washed down from the wall and begins dripping among the possessions that are here. This creature must have been using this area as sort of a base of operations, which indicates to you that you're pretty close to Nowood. You watch as almost time reverses, and so now you've seen kind of how the story ended. You begin to watch the footsteps of a hulking shadow creature, one chain wrapped around the neck, leading this creature almost to the slaughter, leads the creature into this little hovel, pushes it among its own possessions down to its knees, and then stabs it through the heart. And then you watch that backwards as the creature and its quarry walk out of the room, and they begin to backpedal down the tunnel further in the direction that you believe Nowood to be.
And with a final exhale, the incense fades. I'd rolled a 25 on my religion, if that matters.
You did great.
But okay, this is it. This right here. This room, I think, is our last stand. If we're going to collect ourselves and make any preparations, it looks like it was his base of operations. So
how much farther is the town center?
I don't know, but I know the direction.
And if this was his base of operations, then it must not be too far if here was his cause that he had chosen, his injustice that he had chosen to right.
Oh, well, we need to spend the night.
Yes.
Observant.
Well, sleeping.
I have something for you, Alan.
What do you mean?
And he reaches into his pack and says, Fox wanted me to hang on to this, and I think it's probably time to give it to you. Mostly because I forgot of it, but that's how it works sometimes. And he pulls out an ice shard rifle from the fallen tower and hands it to Alan. I think it's damaged. It might need a little tinkering on, but I think that's your expertise.
I forgot that Fox had even grabbed one of these. These are quite interesting devices. Well, it's as you can tell, it's shaped like a device that would fire a projectile, or at least, and Alan will kind of show his flame, kind of gesture to his flamethrower on his belt, and it's a bit larger, and I've seen private security goons use these, and I've also seen a man we met, Savage, use a more refined version of this that actually fired a projectile using different. It was extremely interesting. But this is kind of cipher or magic operated, I believe. But it fires an ice shard. And it can be extremely deadly and precise. They were quite annoying when they were used against us in the Fallen Tower. But
Should we expect them to use them when we fight them?
we haven't encountered them much since. I'm not sure why. Perhaps they've had trouble manufacturing them, or simply have found them to be impractical in some way. I'm not sure.
As a reminder, from a mechanical standpoint, just since this is now in your inventory, Alan, these things use wingle digits to fire, not the weave.
Okay.
So it's 10
That's what I
wingle
thought.
digits for a casting of the spell Ice Knife, as though it were cast at second level, not first level, and you have double the range. So 120-foot range instead of 60.
Okay. What should I put, like cannon of ice knife or something like that?
That's whatever you want to call it. It basically looks like a hunting rifle is the design and aesthetic of it. So it's bolt action. It takes a full round to reload it with, or not a full round. It takes a full action to reload it with wingle digits. So if you have a bonus action attack, then you can reload it and fire in the same turn. Otherwise, you would need to reload as your action one turn and then fire the next turn.
I call it the ice knifle. You can tell because the knifling inside of the barrel.
I like that a lot.
Well, we should definitely be on high alert.
Yes, I agree. And
Alan, from your time in the library, you read up on at least historically, on the city of Nowood. And so you
Okay.
know that Nowood is built around the conical inside of a mountain, stretching up towards the sky, and the top has been lopped off so that it's kind of like a volcano,
Okay.
which means that natural light can get into most of the city. So with that in mind, I'm going to give you the option to choose whether you'd like to approach at night or during the day. And you're going to choose what you want, and then you're going to roll a nature check, or you can opt to have one of your party roll it for you to do your best to estimate exactly when night and day are, because you've been underground for 3 days or for 2 days in these pitch black tunnels.
sure. Alan was going to consult the group real quick. We have the options, obviously, as to whether we can approach during the night or during the day. However, due to the journal entry that Zop read, it seems as though even during the day, the city doesn't necessarily get that much sunlight, as it is mostly overgrown now.
I will
There was already only a small space for the sun to come through.
Radford and I can't even see, like, if it's completely dark, so I think I'd vote for the day, because then we get a little bit of light.
That was what I was going to bring up, is that I think a small amount of sunlight may be actually beneficial for us, and
The
also
shadow creatures
beneficial
look like
against
it.
the yes, exactly, beneficial against the shadow creatures.
I think that's a good idea.
So, yes, I
You know,
think,
you also didn't you say that with that rod thing you have, you can ask questions?
this is true. Yes, I can.
We can go and try and do some recon, or maybe that can help.
I think perhaps a good plan would be to rest for the night, come back during the day, or try to approach during the day, simply to scout, take another night to rest again, and I can summon counsel from the rod as far as, based on our scouting, what would be the best approach, and then from there begin our plan. Does that sound reasonable?
That's much smarter than what I would have come up with. I think that's a good idea.
I like that plan.
Perfect. Well, then I think we will rest for
Good
tonight.
job, boss.
I wouldn't have even thought to summon the Council of the Rod in this situation if you hadn't have brought it up. So I really appreciate that. It's one of those things where it feels almost so sacred and valuable of an ability that it's almost hard. It's hard to judge when using it is appropriate, if that makes sense. but I think that's a good usage of it.
I'm going to give you two options, party. So your plan is to basically spend 1 day scouting and then 1 day actually approaching and doing your thing.
Yep.
One option is that you can actually do the day scouting, and I'll let you roll skill checks and explore and try and wend your way around and spatially understand the space ahead of you, and that's fine. We can totally do it that way. Another option is we will say you spent 1 day scouting, so each of you gets 1 ocean during your next day's assault, and I'll give you a brief overview of what it looks like in the present tense. But we won't spend the time on the day. We'll assume that because you had your extra recon time, you were able to prepare for what might happen to you, and so you would each have 1 ocean available to you.
I think that's fun.
I'll take the ocean.
Yeah, I think that's a fun way of reintroducing that mechanic.
Do you want to explain to chat how oceans work?
Yeah, I'll do a brief little explanation for chat here. Chat, we recently did a heist mini-series based off of the Sly Cooper games, or like the Ocean's 11 type heists, or, really complicated like crime stuff. And to incorporate that, rather than having to actually make a plan, because we all know if there's one thing D&D parties are great at, it's not making plans, we decided to introduce a mechanic called Oceans, where the more prep time you spent, the more Ocean's 11 type flashbacks you got access to. And so you can spend an ocean to do a skill check in the past. You can't undo the present, so if Alan goes around the corner and there's a guard there, he can't have an ocean flashback to the past and kill that guard. The guard's already there in the scene. But what he could do is he could say, yeah, but when I was reconning, I had a feeling that this would be a highly patrolled area, so I hid my flamethrower right there underneath some debris. And that way when the guard comes around the corner, we can flash back to the present tense, and Alan can pull that weapon out of the ground real quick and use it. So that's basically what an ocean is. It's just access to a flashback, something cool that you did in the past to prepare you for the present. And it's a really great way to simulate D&D parties being prepared. In fact, I will let Alan roll on behalf of his party just a straight D20, and if he rolls more than a 10, I'll give each of you 2 oceans instead of 1 ocean.
Wow. All right, let's roll it.
But they obviously won't carry past this assault on the city, because that's what you're preparing for.
I got an 11.
2 oceans it is. 2 oceans each. Well done, Alan.
Let's go.
Good rolls.
And then also a part of this prep, as I mentioned before, was after we scout, Alan will want to summon counsel from the rod and see if he can get advice on what the best approach is.
The whispers of the kings of old, the sages of old, begin surrounding your mind. Wash has a hand up. Yes, Wash?
I want to do a thing. Radford wants to do a thing that first night, if that matters, like interjecting.
Okay, before or after he
first.
summons counsel?
Alan's going to summon counsel the second night after the scouting.
Okay, so Radford, what are you doing the first night?
Radford wants to try to touch the Rod of Wisdom.
Oh, okay. Do you have it with you?
He does.
What's your wisdom mod?
+2.
Or, I'm sorry, what's your wisdom score?
14.
Radford reaches out towards the Rod of Wisdom, a scepter of blackest obsidian with a rearing dragon at its head, and he rests a hand on it, and under your hand, the black obsidian feels as though it's heating up. And as the heat intensifies, Alan and Zopf, you don't physically see this, you only feel and hear the rush of flame as a burning dragon's head launches out of the head of the scepter and chars you kind of up your arm and into your shoulder. You suffer 6 hit points of fire damage, which I guess for you is probably halved. But it leaps out of the scepter, and you feel that you have been repelled by the powers within.
I did that. That was me. That's my bad.
What was that the Rod?
Don't worry about it. And he stuffs it back into his bedroll.
Okay. Now, the next day comes in, so you go and you kind of scout in the daytime, and you see that just as the knight or the Society of the Silver Sky person, as this person wrote, the city is deeply overgrown. by foliage that crosses the the cracks of the flagstones and mosses and ivies that have kind of wound their way around the various doorways and windows, and they hang in great curtains off the edges of things. You also get your first glimpse of Nowood, of this city, and so you can see this massive architectural achievement for the first race to ever exist. These creatures were the first created by the god Zanir in the first era, more than 11,000 years ago. The Hemeticians have built for themselves. It almost looks like a Jenga stack, like a clumsy Jenga stack of blocks, except they're all attached to the mountain behind them. So you're on the inside of this big cone, and the buildings just jut out from there, kind of at weird angles, clearly handmade and stacked on top of each other. They would be narrow for Hemeticians, but for your purposes, they're fairly wide, accommodating streets that kind of wind their way vertically into the different piles of accommodations and buildings and structures, and they're kind of conjoined by weird ramps that have been chiseled into the mountain, so you have to go up the outside almost exclusively. There is one massive pillar in the center of Nowood, and at the top of that is a huge round area, probably 300, maybe 400 feet across, with a raised stage in the center of that would have served as both like an announcement point. It would have been a place for entertainment, if there was jousting or sports tournaments. It would have been their square, where a herald might cry the news to the Hemeticians who were gathered there. Now, of course, it's all blanketed in a thick coating of dust, stone dust, that the air in this cone is, for the most part, still, because it's so deep. It's taller for sure than Gaim was. And Gaim was, 1,200 feet tall. This is maybe a mile from the bottom to the top. And the dust, because it sits still most of the time as you walk, it begins to swirl in strange kind of shadowy recreations of yourselves following you as you walk, which is spooky in itself when you're looking for like shadowy creatures to be in the shadows and attack you. You are stealthy enough in this day of scouting that you don't trigger any attacks, you're not ambushed by anything, but also you don't see any creatures. You don't dare venture high enough to where you would be even with that plinth that you're sure Dew is imprisoned on, so you still don't know the state of the Avatar. But you can see that in addition to all this ancient stuff, these cool architectural achievements and the dust that's coating everything, the kind of dappled beams of sunlight. So there's, hundreds of teeny tiny pinpricks of light that are all illuminated the whole way down, like a spotlight in haze, with all of the dust that's in the air. In addition to that, right in the center of the city, around this pedestal, there is a hastily built sort of like wooden scaffolding like you would see in modern construction, that creates just a ramp or a spiral staircase. It's pretty steep. It's obviously been built for quick use. It's not meant to be like, big crowds are going up and down it. You couldn't get a wagon up and down it. But there is that direct route, and it's not very dusty, and it seems like it's been trafficked fairly recently and stuff. It seems like maybe only a couple weeks worth of dust for a place like this, maybe more. But certainly not the eras of dust that coats this place was abandoned by the Hemeticians in the middle, maybe late Second Era, and since then it's had nothing to do except decompose in place. So there are lots of structures that were built to withstand the test of time and it's all made of stone, but there are plenty of structures that were built hastily, and so the stone roofs have crumbled, or tectonic activity maybe has sent a small section of the city that once, hung out from the upper area of the cone has fallen and smashed on the ground. And so there's plenty of rubble and things to hide behind on the ground, even without counting the foliage. You get the impression that you could stealthily move for about as long as you wanted to before approaching the actual plinth, whether you went up the outside of the cone and then tried to jump or bridge that gap, or whether you wanted to go up the ramp or whatever that looked like. You're confident you could do it stealthily. So that's what your recon yields, not counting your preparations. Each of you has 2 oceans. And then we come to the second night, and Owlin sits down, he grabs the rod of intelligence, and for the first time since attuning, he leans into the effects of this rod, and he begins to channel the 72 past eras of existence, if you will, the 72 eons that came before. and you begin to hear the whispers of those kings and those sages and all those intelligent minds that have been kind of encapsulated in this scepter. And the world around you begins to fade away, almost like visiting the ethereal plane, except instead of becoming grayscale, it's becoming vibrant, vibrant color. Deeper and more real than anything you've ever seen. And when you open your eyes and you look up, you are sitting cross-legged on the floor of a Zen garden in the middle of a little bit of sand. Next to you is the little rake laying on the ground, and in front of you is one being that is representative of many beings. You can see lots of faces flickering across its personage, and it's sitting equally cross-legged looking towards you. Sometimes you're looking into the eyes of a great queen with eyes terrible from the wars she's won. Sometimes you're looking into the eyes of a wizened old sage. Sometimes you're looking into the eyes of a young child who is just preternaturally intelligent. Sometimes you're looking into the eyes of a conqueror, a barbarian warlord. And as you're looking at all of these faces, the creature turns its head to the side and waits for you to speak.
I am in a party of 3, and we must free an avatar, Do Bumblefoot, from the city of Nowood. She is trapped, bound by an arcane sigil at the top of the town square, and is likely being guarded and tortured by creatures of limbo. The city is overgrown, it's abandoned, and we need to rescue Do in order to continue our mission to bring magic back into the world. What do you, O great and intelligent rulers and thought leaders of the past, what would you recommend our approach be?
A dwarven woman with fiery red hair raises a teacup to her lips, and as an elderly human sets down a flask of mead on the ground in front of you and it fades away back into the sand, you hear the voice of a gnome ringing out of the poly creature, if you will. And it says, "Well, there's not much we can tell you about your current world, but the plane of limbo we know very well. The chaos energy, if you will, that makes up the plane of limbo can only be created into something by a great intellect. But it has no discernment between friend or foe. Another mind can crowd it out, can rewrite a reality that has been written. If all of the defenses against which you fight are maintained from this limbo energy, this chaos energy," and then suddenly the face changes again, and you're standing in front of, or not standing, you're sitting in front of like a large owl bear with a huge pike in his hand, who's drawing out battle plans in the sand, and he says, "Right now, if we can just take over the mental energies of these creatures, and we can kind of push out the discerning influence, we could bend them to our own will, lads. We could turn them into our own sort of demi-army, a creation of our own making, or we could unmake them. We could take what was meant to be an ambush and turn it into a nice down feather bed." And then as he disappears, he's replaced by another small dwarf, this one a male, clearly like Uncle Iroh style, balding with his little, his possessions over his shoulder. And he's looking down at it and he says, "But you must be careful, because the energy of limbo will push back against you if you do this. You will find yourself given to the chaotic. Your impulses may be overwritten, and there is only so much protection that we can give you. For it is not only your intelligence, but your wisdom that this energy will attack. And if you find yourself corrupted by it, you may find that your very being can be influenced by any creature with sufficient mental standing. So I suggest a warm cup of tea before going into fight. It always sharpens my senses." And then the creature disappears, and you are hearing the echoey voice of a great orator who might give speeches or lead sermons or something like that. But you're hearing this great orator's voice. And as for the arcane circle within which your quarry has been imprisoned, all arcane circles react to a root sigil. And so if you can find the foundational magic over which it matters not how complex the arcane circle is, if you can find the foundational spell, which, to be honest, is usually low level because we are lazy folk, if you can find the foundational spell and corrupt it or twist it, you could take that circle and force it to do something else, or in your case, perhaps the opposite of its own function. If you could make a slight adjustment to the runes rather than destroying it and triggering the inevitable failsafe of any megalomaniac warlord, you could instead turn it to your own will, and so you might expel the imprisoned party, see them flung into the air and to safety, where perhaps you have someone dexterous waiting to catch them like a trapeze artist in the theater. And then this person disappears and you're standing before the innocent eyes of a young boy, and he holds in his hand a small like a small sort of wind-up toy, like kind of meant to imitate like a frog, where you kind of wind it up and it'll hop. And he reminds you a little bit of a younger Owlin in the Eos Lore Foundation tower, kind of puzzling away at the different contraptions that his artificer's mind wanted to unwind. And the boy begins twisting the frog backwards. He says, "The most important thing about any creation is that when you let go, it acts of its own accord." And the frog hops out of his hand and disappears into the sand. So this trap that you're approaching will not require a mind to maintain it. And that means that that mind will be active in other ways as you attack. Be wary of whatever your foes are capable of, because they will not be encumbered by focusing on the bounds that hold your prey. And then as his voice echoes off and the voices of the ancients become just whispers around you, you find yourself once more sitting cross-legged next to the deceased member of the Society of the Silver Sky, and Radford and Zopf. Radford and Zopf, it's been about 15 minutes. What are each of you doing as Owlin kind of sits there just meditating on a scepter?
Has been brewing tea, and as Owlin comes to, he has a little pot of tea and some cups set out, still steaming.
So, Zopf has the Find Familiar spell.
Okay.
And so he would have used that, and then he has an owl, which fly very quietly, or silently even, and it's just, like, perched within 100 feet, so we can maintain the spell, and I can maintain contact with it, and I can see through it periodically as, like, if something's approaching.
Okay. I'll let it just up your passive perception a little bit. If you're just, like, checking in from time to time to see if anything's happening. Is that basically what you're using it for? Yeah. So up your passive perception by, like, 4 while you have the owl there.
That would be 14 then.
Great. So you have a passive perception of 14 for the moment. And that's what we have. So yeah, it is nighttime. The dawn of the final day approaches. And
so when Alan comes to, he'll immediately see and smell the tea that Radford has made and say, "Oh, that I didn't expect that to be a literal recommendation, but
I find it calms the mind and helps focus the senses."
Alan like squints and like thinks like tries to like visualize the ancient.
Why are you looking at the top of my head? Is there something up there?
No, it's just having a pleasant sense of deja vu. And
That's
Alan will take the tea and drink it. Yes, it is very good. He'll say as he sips on it, and he'll say, "Well, I counseled with the minds within the rod, and some interesting recommendations came up. Learning some more about the realm of limbo, which is extremely interesting. Apparently, these limbo creatures, because they are so chaotic and they're from chaos energy, one can disrupt the control that the mind, that the intellect that is controlling them currently has on such a creature, and perhaps either bend that creature into a certain direction or attempt to maintain your own control on them as well, which is extremely interesting. I wasn't able to glean exactly what the method for that would be. However, I would assume it would involve some sort of contact, whether that be physical or mental.
So we can exert our mind over these shadow beings?
Apparently. However, it was warned to me that such a move would be risky, and that you risk exposing your mind to the mind of the previous controller of that creature. So there's a chance that we could be exposing our mind to the aboleths if we attempted this. I also learned more about arcane circles, in that perhaps an easier way to disrupt or destroy an arcane circle wouldn't necessarily be to scratch out all of the markings on it like I have done previously, but to perhaps modify the circle to be a different spell that perhaps is something more of what you want it to be. Perhaps a spell of fly that could cause Bumblefoot to, instead of being entrapped, but fly straight up and be perhaps caught by one of us in a kind of a rescue attempt. I think that we have some good options for what we can try
Josh,
tomorrow.
What's up?
Can I either use like an Arcana roll to like scribble like a or figure out like what kind of rune, what the base style of rune would look like for like the encompassing or entrapment spell that they're using?
Yes. So when you are looking at an arcane circle, when you're examining it, if it's arcane, then you can use an Arcana check, and if it's divine, you can use a religion check to identify the base spell.
Okay.
The complexity of the circle determines how hard it is to get to like the actual spell at its core. You can assume that these will be pretty complex. We're probably looking at 16 or 17 as your DC for what like this is something the aboleths invented. It may even be higher than that. You don't know, but probably starting in the 16 range. Once you have identified that spell, to alter the spell will require one check of something you can justify your character being able to do. So like for Owlin, it would be an Artificer Tools check based in intelligence. But some check, and you'll need one check to switch schools. So like, there's the 8 schools of magic, or really there's 10 now. But the schools of magic, there's the one check to change the spell and one check to change level. So if the underlying spell is a level 1 spell in the School of Evocation, and you want it to become a level 2 spell of Abjuration, then that would be the most checks. That would be 3 checks you have to succeed on. But if you find a level 2 spell of Abjuration and you want a different level 2 spell of Abjuration, that's only one modification you need to make.
Okay.
Well, that is good to know. Well, if they are, let me do some research about what kind of spell they might be using to, or do some thinking on what kind of spell they might be using.
ChatGPT.
Google.
This isn't really my wheelhouse, so anyway, I can support you. Here, I'll work on your shoes while you're doing that.
I appreciate that.
Zop will also be like thinking with Alan, brainstorming the different I guess entrapment spells.
I say Alan might be his one of his other priorities tonight before he rests is to see if he can fix up that rifle of ice knife.
Oh, the rifle has been fixed up by Randy.
Oh,
it's in working order.
Cool. Great, cool.
10 wingle digits to fire, but otherwise, like, works fine.
Correct. Cool. Great. Yeah. I would say, I think did Zopf already roll an Arcana check to see if?
Not yet.
Okay.
Without seeing the circle, you're not going to be able to extrapolate from the circle.
I see.
But you can roll to
Okay.
try and guess, I suppose. But the check's going to be super duper high.
Well, Okay, in that case, that's fine. Alan might just like think about like what. All right, what goes into a fly spell? So that if he's in a situation where he needs to modify,
Or the catapult spell.
Callback.
yeah, no kidding. Transmutation is fly, and it's a 3rd level spell, so that is good to know.
Teleportation spell. That would-
Levitation just sends the object up into the air. The object doesn't have to be conscious. This is Wash. This is Jebediah Peppermint coming at you from the past. Hey Alan, if you remember, this is a
Solar Angel
little
Jeb.
ghostly head pops out of the intelligence rod. He's like, hey pup, remember, if you cast fly on them, then that means that person needs to be in control of it, not you. But if you cast levitate, then you can make them go up and down.
The presumption
Just in
of
case you
Jeb,
were wondering.
the presumption of Jeb to assume he's one of this existence's representatives in the Rod of Intelligence is
Yep.
awesome. I love the self-confidence.
You think he wouldn't? He's got to be like, oh
No,
man,
I'm sure
Alan's
he
got the
thinks it.
rod. I'm totally in there.
So yeah, Alan will think about that.
Also, I have an owl familiar, so we don't need to take watch. The owl can watch.
Oh, perfect. That is great to know. Well, in that case, I believe our general strategy for tomorrow will be to approach as quietly as we can, attempt to surprise perhaps one of those shade creatures, get into contact with it to try to exert will over it, and then from there, instead of spending all this effort to destroy the sigil, we should instead modify it, and use that as a way for perhaps you, Zopf, to take do, while then Radford and I escape on the ground. Does that
I won't
sound like
be
a
able
good
to carry
outline?
Dew if Dew is unconscious, I will not be able to carry her.
Well, you will be the same size. You are both small. Does that make any difference?
I'm just not strong.
Well, with a
mean, if
levitate
it's-
spell and your
yeah.
wings, could you perhaps guide her simply to a safer spot and then?
Absolutely.
Okay.
They need to be next to your rod, though. Like, within range.
Well, I guess if the intent is for us to disable some of the magic going on around with Dew not being there, I guess that makes sense. The range of the rod is fairly long. That's a problem I think we will solve when we get to it. That's not something
I'm just giving you guys
often
the
say.
forewarning. Like I can
Sure.
push, but
I think pushing will be enough to get to a safe spot.
Just push her up. Yeah, just push her up.
well, let's get a good night's sleep and
That sounds good.
And so you do. And with alarming swiftness, the next morning is upon you. You wake up at the appointed time. Nothing has gone awry during the night. You maybe you break camp or whatever the plan is, and it is time to press on and into the city of Nowood. Yes, Trevor?
Josh, real quick, right before we leave to set off, Zop will flip up the hood of his Cloak of Elven Kind, which makes it so with perception checks made to see me have disadvantage, I have advantage on stealth checks to hide, and the cloak's color shifts to camouflage me, and pulling the hood up and down requires an action.
Okie doke. All that stuff happens.
Yes.
Look at you go. As long as you're near enough to Alan for
Yes.
for his powers to help. Great. Anybody else doing any other preparations, or are we doing
I was gonna
this?
say Alan will do his darndest to be quiet. Like he's gonna. The goal is for us to start off stealthy, and Alan's not very good at that generally. But there's gonna
With
be an
all that
attempt.
prep time you did and mapping it out, and with as overgrown as the city is, you can definitely roll it with advantage.
Okay, cool.
Everybody gets 4 temporary hit points from Radford's tasty treats.
Let's go.
Breakfast was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Always.
War breakfast is best breakfast.
That's what
And,
Alan says in the morning.
Before he leaves the little hovel, Radford kneels down again next to this member of the Society of the Silver Sky, and places his hand, like kind of traces his claws across its forehead, and says, "This injustice is mine."
Ooh. And so you move towards the city of Nowood. It's not very far down the tunnel before you find yourselves at the base of the massive city. Just as you scouted before, with the cloud of dust illuminate. As the morning sun is coming up, it's still kind of blue hour in here, right? The sun's not high enough to actually shine down, but there's enough light kind of ambiently bouncing around that you can see dimly what's ahead of you. So we're in dim lighting conditions, which means you can see 30 feet, like shapes, and you can see a little bit of color. 60 feet, it's all grayscale. You can only basically make out spatially where things are. You step out into the city of Nowood, and you have before you either the option of going up the outer edge of the city or trying to make your way to the wooden scaffolding at the middle of the city. And I'd like to know what everybody rolled on stealth.
I believe that it would be wise to start on the outside, as we will be less exposed on the way up.
I agree. Also 17 on stealth.
13 on stealth.
I'm following you, boss, and I got 18 on my stealth.
Cool. The group is moving with an average stealth of 15, and if you split up, we'll land on your actual scores. So you begin, you said the outside edge?
Yes.
Okay, so you begin climbing one of the winding roads, and up close you can definitely see the between the foliage and the rubble and the dust and everything, like this is a city in disrepair, but you can also begin to see some of the history that chiseled in stone, unlike weaker buildings, kind of has carried through. You pass by a hall where you can imagine lavish wedding celebrations taking place, or you pass by a home where you can see the char marks on the roof where someone probably broke city ordinances to burn a fire because they thought it was cozy. Just little hints of past Hematetian society. As you get higher through this kind of winding way and out of what you can really tell is kind of like a residential district, if you will, as you reach the top of that, you get a great sight line, not to the top of the plinth where Dew Bumblefoot is. This will probably take a while to get up to that height, but you do have a good access of just like looking underneath it. You can see the wooden scaffolding spiraling up towards it. And you can see almost like an observation area, and there are a lot of these that have been kind of built throughout the city, and so kind of crouching along maybe behind a little bit of rubble, you can almost picture the crowds of Hematetians as they lay or stood really in groups watching someone orate from the plinth, from the town hall. You can hear maybe a mayor or a queen or a king is imploring them to war, urging them on to victory, and you can see the masses kind of cheering and crying, and you can hear their voices echo around the cone as you relive what was there. You continue your climb, winding through these buildings, and you can see as you enter a district clearly trafficked less than any others. Alan, you remember reading about an area of Nowood that was once known as the Plague Quarter, an area that Hematetian stopped going to because after the rust plague that swept through the city, the most contagious people were all moved to this area. And it became almost like a superstition or a stigma where people were like, I can't go there, I might get sick, even, centuries after the plague had been ended by Zanir. You move through the Plague Quarter, and because it was less trafficked, there was less wear and tear on it, and so it's endured really well. And you can see even some, like, dusty, kind of deteriorating frames of, medical cots and beds that are, perhaps 10,000 years old. Some of it has endured. You can begin to see little dens that animals or other creatures have made. A little fox is disturbed by your walking, scampers across the path and kicks some little rocks down. Everyone freezes for a moment, wondering if this will be the spring of the ambush, but nothing happens. And then it's actually Zoph who gets the first indication that you're not alone. Zoph, you get a little something through the owl network, if you will. Your owl indicates that there's movement ahead of you. And as far as the owl can tell, it's just the wind disturbing a little bit of the foliage. You know, the wind kind of gently blowing maybe one of the curtains of ivy that kind of has fallen across a doorway. Except that you know full well there's not much wind down here. Definitely not enough wind to disturb a heavy curtain of ivory. And so that's your first indication that there might be something moving or being up that way. It does not seem to be pressing out or attacking, but you are going to have to pass that area as you continue your climb. What will the group do?
Zop will stop the party and like quietly whisper, "There's something behind the curtain up there."
This could be our chance. Is there? Alan will like kind of look to see if there's a way that they can kind of sneak around the curtain of ivy and like position themselves behind it to like get a look at like what might be moving through it or hiding behind it.
Go ahead and roll a perception with disadvantage between the lighting situation, the cover, all the same stuff that's making your stealth easy is making it hard to spot dangers.
12.
You every now and then you see a little disturbance in the curtain of ivy, but you do not get any indication of what's beyond. You don't hear anything. You don't.
But does there seem to be like some sort of path that they can forge to get behind it, basically?
Oh, I see. So you're trying to go around instead of going past the doorway.
Yeah, to go around and perhaps sneak up behind.
So there's not a way behind the building, but there's plenty of stone and rubble and stuff where you could climb onto the roof of the building from your path. It would be difficult to do that stealthily, but not really that much more difficult than climbing the winding streets and displacing the rubble that's in your way as it is.
Okay.
It'd be difficult for Alan.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. Radford could probably do it without even having to roll a new check.
Alan
Can
will
we
like
just scope it out, boss?
Yes, I think that would be beneficial and
Do you want me to stay back or go with them? I can fly too.
I'll stay here. You two go ahead and see if you can locate this. If it is indeed one of those shades of chaos energy, I will stay hidden here.
Okay.
But I will watch, and if you give me a signal, whether it's a hand signal or a sound signal, I will hear and spring the attack.
Zop and Radford move up, continuing to be sneaky.
Yep, you sneakily move up. Radford climbs onto the roof, and Zoph kind of flutters gently behind. And for Zoph, this is a matter of kind of weaving around, like, you know, some of the plants that are hanging, so you don't disturb them. But you make it onto the roof. You kind of crawl forward towards the roof, the edge, and maybe your owl swoops by first to try and avoid giving away the sight of the two of you. The owl reports nothing's there. Radford's got a hand up. Yes, Radford.
Radford pulls out his little bubble pipe.
Okay.
He kind of sucks on it a little bit. And instead of pouring his little bubble fluid into it, he's going to put a little incense into it and light it. And it lets off a trail of smoke. And he's going to use that to try and detect any disturbances in the wind.
You see no disturbances in the wind. The smoke is going straight up with like little wisps to the side, but those wisps are probably the kinetic fire or force of the fire on the incense, not any gust of wind. There's nothing happening, and you can't feel it on your person either.
Okay.
It's utterly silent.
What do you think, Zoph? You think we motion Alan over and then we can ambush whoever's in here?
Definitely invisible, I think.
Oh, you think it's being sneaky like that?
Yeah. How
Well,
do you want to
I'm I'm gonna motion to Alan to be like, come on over, but quietly.
Alan will as quietly as he can try to sneak forward, basically up to as close as he can get to them without having to climb stuff and without being in
You can get
like
the whole way to the front door without climbing.
okay, and but his whole goal is to not get so close to the front door that if some evil creature was lurking right behind that door that they'd be able to pounce out and get him.
Okay.
So he'll stay
like keeping a 10-foot range away, maybe?
I was about to say 10 feet exactly.
Okay.
10 feet away.
Yeah. An owlin length, if you will.
Yeah.
One owlin away from the door. And you, Owlin, you make it there. You're kind of standing in like a shadowy corner. By this point, the sun has come up high enough that there's just beginning to be some little peaks of light, of direct light, I should say, through the canopy of foliage and into Nowood. And so Owlin is in his position. He's kind of holding position as like a little beam of light pinpricks on Owlin's cheek and then kind of slides off as the sun climbs and onto the ground in front of him. Radford and Zop still taking position on the roof above. There's still no indication of movement within the building.
Is there like a chimney on this roof?
Sure. That's a cool idea.
Any sort of is this almost like a Middle Eastern house where there's like
Yes.
a stone stairs that goes up to the roof? So
Absolutely,
okay,
yes.
so
That's what
so
the architecture is
Radford's-
inspired by. So if that helps anybody listening or whatever visualize it, it is that style of
gotcha.
Can
So
Zop
Radford's
flutter down
gonna
the chimney?
well, hang on.
Radford's gonna get on all fours and just kind of like spider climb along the floor just to be really quiet and get down close to the stairs that head down into the first floor, and he's gonna just kind of look inside there and see what he can see.
It is not
like,
well lit inside. However,
Well, I was gonna say, but he's probably looking at whatever is between the opening that he's looking through and the light on the other side. So he would be able to see like silhouettes of stuff, essentially.
yes, he definitely would. You don't see any silhouettes. As far as Radford can tell, the house is empty.
Well, he kind of stands up and he's like, You can pass that on to Alan.
Hey, Alan. Radford says, "Oh,
Alan will see when Radford kind of signals like no big deal, nothing seems to be here. Alan will like kind of hand signal towards the front door as like kind of like, and he'll actually I think he'll see he's gonna grab he's gonna have his flame cannon in his other hand and like motion basically like, all right, let's clear the house just in case. Like he's gonna go in the front door and he wants Radford to still watch from the top opening as Alan will
and
go
maybe
in and just
Zop is
clear
going in
just
through the
case.
chimney."
Yes,
Zop wants to
yeah.
go down the chimney.
Great.
So yeah,
I'm in
Alan
position.
wants to basically Rainbow Six Siege this house.
Great.
Like we trained, boss.
Yeah.
And just a few short seconds later, the three of you find yourselves staring, armed, ready for battle, into each other's eyes.
Okay.
As Owlin brushes aside the ivy or the moss or whatever that's crossing the door, kind of pushes through the curtain. Radford swings down the steps, the little opening, and lands lightly on his feet, ready for a fight. And Zopf comes bursting through the chimney, and there's nobody in there with you. No shadow creatures that you can see, no anything. There's just, it's pretty dark, so like you can only barely see each other's eyes. But Owlin disturbed the curtain in front of the door, so a little bit of the morning light is coming in. It's enough to see each other and to see like, okay, dimly the corners of this house are all empty. It's a one-room home.
If Alan made a quick judgment, would he determine that if he casted light on something in this room right now, would it be a very bright signal to anyone who was watching that they are in there?
Yes.
Or would it be okay?
The building has windows, so it would shine out through the windows and the front door.
Okay.
I think we're good.
I think we have the only choice we have is to assume we are, even though I'm fairly suspicious. Well, let's continue onward, but keep one eye over our shoulder, I would say.
Can I
Are there any
check
stone
for
pots in
drafts
here?
from the chimney, Josh?
Yes, and as you check for a draft from the chimney, you actually find one. As the rising sun has begun to warm the inside of the city, some of the air has become hot, and so there is hot and cold air, and that is creating just a tiny amount of wind. And so there's a little bit of a draft kind of going up into the air.
I will relay this to my partner.
Is there a stone pot in here?
Like for cooking?
Sure.
Yes.
Like for storage.
Yeah. Are you just trying to link it, or are you going to just smash the stone pot?
No, but that's the kind of pot I was hoping to find.
Yeah, sure. There's a couple of those. Maybe some of them are chipped and cracked, and others have survived.
I pick up one of them and walk over to Alan and take a little stone and I toss it in the pot. What if you put your light on that stone?
Yes, I can do that. And Alan will cast light on the little stone
You've
inside the
effectively
pot.
created a bullseye lantern for yourself, and we will treat it as one.
And I just kind of sweep it around
Yeah.
the room real quick.
Yep, you poke into all the little corners and everything like that. At one point, you kind of psych yourself out that you hear like a whoosh, but there's nothing to corroborate it. You don't sit, no creature attacks you. Nothing comes out of the shadows. Nothing, no sign of the metal chains. There's just just a little bit of something, and then you're done.
Okay.
We carry
Well-
forward.
I put the little cork thing in the top of it to plug it up and just hang on to the little stone handle on the side, kind of like a briefcase. Well, we got us a little light.
That is
Yeah.
an ingenious design. I think that is extremely
Oh, I
creative.
thank you. I am quite the inventor myself by
I-
putting stones and lids of pots together.
I think that is quite ingenious. I like it a lot.
Brilliant in its simplicity.
Exactly, yes. But yeah, we'll continue on stealthily.
As you continue ascending the outer wall of the city of Nowood, you continue to pass by, actual tangible evidence of the history that you've read about in your time in Hembleyhoo. Alan, you pass by the great entertaining hall where the king was assassinated in the year 1034. You pass by the barracks of their armed forces where the siege of Black Keep took place in the Second Era, a conflict between rival factions for control of half the city. You pass by a large, expansive, it's not quite as big as the town hall, but it's like a big platform that juts out from the wall. And you remember, oh yes, these were for the Festival of Stars, a week-long celebration in honor of Zanir, where music would be played and there was dancing and there would be feasting in the nearby buildings, and you can see around them some kind of common buildings and little gazebos that would have held food, large stone grilling tables where there's a little divot in the middle for charcoal or for another kind of flame source, and there would be a rack placed over top of that, though by now, of course, the stone or the charcoal or whatever the fuel is has gone away. You can see the footsteps imprinted in the main staircase as you leave one district and go to another that indicate the heavy booted feet of the Hemetian armies on their way down to venture into the Underdark. And then as you gaze up towards the plinth, which you are now almost even with, you can visualize the matriarch of the Hemetians urging her citizens on to war, to glory, to honor Zanir and his command to delve deeper. And then as you come even with the plinth and you're about to get your first glimpse of Dew Bumblefoot and the state she's in, you get one last kind of flashback as a Hemetian robed and coughing is urging, imploring, begging his fellow citizens to leave, to come to the new city they've established of Rustfree in the east. And for Owlin, it's a strange moment as you, a conqueror, a later conqueror of that city, watch as its inhabitants agree in massive numbers to flee a plague that was killing them in droves. To really understand on a tangible historical level that a city that you conquered existed as a refuge. and to kind of see the not you can't quite call it corruption. It's not like, you know, someone was bought and that's why the A2 army marched on Rust Free and renamed it to Stainless. But you can see the drive of like, okay, our innovation came at the cost of these refugees' home. You know, we needed the natural materials that were present in their area, so we drove them out. And luckily for you, the city had been abandoned, but they didn't know that when they marched. And so you kind of are reckoning with that, and you have this little flicker of that, and then you see the plinth, the town hall or the town square of Nowood. And the first thing you see is that 5 large stone obelisks have been placed like great claws reaching out of the plinth, stretching upwards towards the sky. And on the outside of them, facing you, there are platforms stacked above each other like a strange kind of shelf that are each about the size of those divine batteries that you could see at the Umbral Sea. And stretching out from those stone teeth, or those stone claws, if you will, stretching out from that towards the center of the plinth are all kinds of crisscrossing lines with flowing script and languages that, if they are languages, you don't recognize them, even with the benefit of comprehend languages coming from the rod. This is some kind of... It's almost like instead of being written in an actual programming language, something was written in binary. It's like the core components of what magic are have been scribed on the ground here. Somewhere between hieroglyphics and emojis is what you're looking at here on the ground. And and somebody's figured out the puzzle a little bit early.
Yeah.
And as they stretch towards the center, you can see that they form into one massive ring that, creates this arcane circle. And at the center of that, completely still, laying on the ground, almost like in a petrified sort of stillness, is a young wheatling woman whose, wheat-colored straw or wheat-colored hair has kind of darkened to like a brown, whose robe is in tatters, whose arms are covered in scorch marks, laying there just staring up, not moving.
Can we spot any shadow creatures? Any?
No.
Oh.
How do you want to proceed?
The whisper is still a whisper, but sounds as loud as a yell in the stillness.
Actually, Alan would like to take a moment and just let's sit in that stillness, have everyone be as quiet as possible, and see if he can detect specifically any... The last time we encountered one of these chaos creatures, one of these limbo creatures, there was kind of early signs, like sounds and feelings that seemed completely random. Alan would like to settle into his environment and see if he can detect any of that.
Make an insight check with advantage, because you've got a kind of a taste of what the experience is like already.
Radford also has his pipe burning with incense still, for what it's worth.
Okay.
I rolled a 2 and a 1, so that's a 4.
No.
The advantage saved you from the 1, but you are not able to detect anything out of the ordinary or amiss. But it does smell nice because Radford's got incense burning.
It's sandalwood.
From this distance, can Alan make out anything about an arcane sigil or an arcane circle on the ground and what that might be constructing? Or
you're about even with the circle, so while you can tell it's there, you're not high enough above it to read the runes. You can maybe read one of the runes, and that one you're confident is not the root spell. That is some kind of tweaking of the magic that's happening.
Okay.
You said there were platforms above, Josh?
Oh, you mean the wooden scaffolding?
Above the circle?
I mean, you could keep going. Batteries. You could keep going. Oh, so the circle has these teeth that are jutting up off of it, so straight up at the outer edge of the circle. And then on the other side of those, sticking out from the circle, are
Okay.
little shelves that the
Got it.
batteries could be on.
Zopf, do you know if perhaps your owl could fly over top the sigil at a distance where you could see through its eyes and see if you could discern the nature of the circle?
Yeah.
Hey, you could read it.
Just watch my body.
I got you.
And then
And
Zop
he
will-
puts him up on his pack.
Zop will go into the owl where he can see and hear from it and fly, staying within the 100-foot range above the circle.
Okay, great. The owl flies up over, as high as it can, so about 90 feet maybe, and then out a little ways, maybe 10 feet. And so now you're kind of up at one corner of the circle. And owls are slow-moving creatures, so it's an agonizing couple of seconds as you wait for the owl to, swoosh its way up there. But as it looks down on the circle, you can see a few additional details. For one, there are 3 lines almost that stretch from Dew Bumblefoot's where she is. They kind of stretch out in like a peace sign almost to the edges of the arcane circle. Outside of the circle, where there are smaller magic circles that then extend out to the fangs or the teeth or whatever that are sticking up. So there's some kind of secondary magic happening here. You are also able to determine that the circle is unoccupied with the exception of Dew Bumblefoot. There's no one else on there that your owl can see. And then you wanted to try and identify the magic. Go ahead and
Yes.
roll an Arcana check with... are you trained in Arcana?
Yes.
Okay, so just roll a normal Arcana check.
13.
13. You are not able to find where the circle starts, so you can't read the spell past there. Every now and then you recognize like a single little glyph or rune or whatever as like what it might do to a base spell, but without knowing that spell, you have no way of knowing like what exactly is happening.
And I can still talk in my body, so I just relay everything as I'm seeing it.
Sure. The other thing that's really easy to see from the owl that maybe the others that you don't see as easily from the edge of the building is as the owl is flying up there, looking upwards, you can see like now that the top of the mountain is illuminated because it's midday or late morning, and so there's a bright light up there, and you can see projecting into that bright light the scale of stars. The scale of stars is not actually centered; it's offset on the edge of the cone of the mountain, but one of the pieces of the scales is extending out over that gap, and it's easily long enough to cover it halfway. So it almost casts this shadow that is moving around the building, almost like a sundial. The scale is probably 500 feet projecting over the opening, so you can assume it's about 1,000 feet across. And while you can't tell how big it is, it's big enough that from down here it has depth. Like as the owl's looking
Wow.
up at it, you're probably still half a mile away, and you can tell that it's tall. So there's the scale of stars up there, just kind of sticking out.
Okay. I'll revert back and have the owl if there's somewhere for it to perch, just perch there and alert me if it detects any movement.
Okay.
I think we just need to head up.
You want to just go ahead?
I'm not sure whether the best strategy would be to... Part of me is tempted to simply settle in here, find places where we can observe without being observed, and wait to see what happens, to see if any shadow creatures make any appearances, or if...
The longer we wait, the worse it gets. Like, if they know we're here, they could have already called for backup, or there's just, one here that's watching us that we can't find.
Well, the most important thing is figuring out the runes and deciphering the spell. Maybe we could just find a safe place or find a defensible place, and you could just keep working it out.
So, in that case, do we think maybe it would be advantageous to continue to climb higher on these edges to where we can have a vantage point where we can see from above the sigil, or perhaps periodically send your familiar to observe it, to see if we can glean any more from it, and try to suss it out, and then from then continue from there. I'm not opposed to that idea. I just, it feels,
the longer we're here, the worse it's gonna get.
to me it just feels wrong to just step out after we've done all of this. Do any of you have any ability to approach the circle without being detected, or would we just be, I just fear we would be completely exposed.
I mean,
with my cloak, I'm harder to detect, and I can just kind of flutter above it, so I don't trigger anything on the ground. But
That may be, here's another option if we want to act faster but not give away our surprise. Perhaps you, Zopf, could approach and be harder to detect, try to gain more information, and even begin acting, and us two, Radford and I, could stay hidden until but stay vigilant, and if we notice things going wrong, that's when we spring. Does that sound appropriate, or?
okay.
sure. We'll cover you.
So to be clear about your situation, you're on the outer edge of the city, and then there is
Yep.
Gap, and then there is the center, like, town hall plinth, statuette area. So to get over there, like, you'd have to find a way over there.
About
in
how
addition
far is
to-
it?
Oh, there's no bridge that we can see?
There's no bridge that you can see yet.
Oh.
Nobody's looked for. There must have been a way for them to access this. Like, your artificer's brain is like cannot
Yeah.
handle the idea that they didn't have a way over there. But you haven't found the mechanism yet that would allow such a connection. The
I
distance,
see.
Radford, is somewhere in the realm of maybe 400 feet, something like that, 300 or 400 feet,
Okay.
because you're wider at this point than the top of the city is. So.
Well then, perhaps first we look for an access point. Stay hidden, attempt to stay hidden while we do that. And then we engage that plan
I mean,
where
I have access regardless, but I
this is
agree.
true, you can fly.
But if you get in trouble, we can't get
we
to
can't.
you.
Exactly.
We can't get to
So
it.
we
So-
still we find this access point.
Find the access point. We don't necessarily have to engage it or use it when we send you.
Yes.
But from there, yes, I believe that should be the plan.
Alan, if you want to make
DM.
the investigation with advantage because you're an artificer and you kind of know how they think, that would be acceptable. And Wash has a
Okay.
DM question. What's up?
How high would Radford need to go, just like looking up, before it like tapered in enough?
To get like over,
him
so you
to-
could just drop straight down, kind of a thing.
Drop straight down, or just have like a bird's eye view. Like Radford is
get a-
starting to think spatially. Like he's going to be like running up stuff and jumping across things
Right.
potentially.
You
He's
could
trying to
get-
suss that area out.
You could get a bird's eye view from about, where you could read the whole circle, but it's far away, so you'd need it to be lit by the sun overhead.
Mm-hmm.
You could go about 200 feet up, further up the wall, and you'd be high enough to look down and read the whole circle. To drop down onto the circle, you'd probably need to go another 400 or 500 feet up before
Okay.
it's curved in that far.
Okay, so that's not much of an option.
Alan got a 25 on the investigation.
Oh,
Let's
Owlin,
go.
Artificer Owlin knows what he's looking for. It starts out with a little bit of like, everybody search, and everyone kind of looks around for something until it becomes immediately apparent to Owlin. You're still on this like sort of platform where like a festival might have been held or something like that. And at the edge of the platform, you realize that there are, a number of sort of like half-height barricades that have been built so people don't fall and die awfully. And you can see that one of them is slightly different than the others. It's like pushed lower in the ground. And as you walk over to it, you can see like, oh yes, if I just lift this section of wall, it will trigger whatever mechanism there's like a bridge hidden in the side of the mountain. And so when you lift it up, a bridge will extend out. The Hemeticians were, a bold, pioneering race created in the first era. They were not necessarily well developed in terms of their innovation and their machinery. This is probably stone on stone with stone wheels. So you're not talking about something quiet as this bridge extends out to the center. But of course, they wouldn't have cared because it would have summoned people for whatever was going to be done from the town square. Like that would have been a feature, not a bug. So why would they have tried to solve it? But that would be the means that's available from here to get over there.
Okay. Well, Alan will show that to the rest of the group, and kind of as we regroup, reiterate the plan of Zopf will fly over, try to stay undetected. Radford and I will keep watch. As soon as we notice something, we will signal and spring into action.
All right. So Zopf, you're flying over to the magic circle?
He is, but he's going to try and stick to the shadows and be as stealthy as possible.
Okay. At high noon, the sun is shining straight down through the hole, which means it's tough for that intervening, like the air space, it's tough to stay in the shadows. Roll a stealth with disadvantage to determine how hard you are to get. Actually, roll it at normal advantage because you're tiny and you have your cloak on. So just roll it normal. Roll a normal stealth
Roll
check.
it at normal vantage.
Yeah, normal vantage.
18.
18. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good for a fly guy. That's how that goes, right? And you kind of, you're weaving and doing your best to avoid. Like we said, the sun is, rather than being one big beam, it's hundreds of tiny beams that come through the plant cover. And so you're kind of weaving through those as best as you can, these sort of volumetric pillars of air.
I was just saying the cloak probably blends into the vines pretty good.
Yeah. And then you make it to the plinth. Is your goal are you trying to go down to Dew, or are you trying to go to the edge of the circle? Like, where are you headed? You're now on this plinth, this, 300-400 feet across stage.
I want to get, try and piece together this circle before anything happens.
Great. So let's have an Arcana check to understand what's happening here.
Will a 9 do it?
No, it won't. You're looking down, and it looks complicated. Man, that's the magic down there. You cannot use another Arcana check at the moment, but you can try and justify another skill if you want to give it another
Could
go.
I scribble it down on some paper to take back to Alan for him to help?
Scribble a copy of it?
Yeah.
Sure. Make a... are you trained in sleight of hand?
Scribble check.
I am not.
Okay, make a dexterity check to see how well you can copy the rune. Actually, you're a paper pusher. That's your career.
Yeah.
Sure. You're able to jot down what the circle looks like and bring back. You don't know what it says, but you've copied it pretty well. And you're gonna fly it back to Alan.
Before I do, I want to. Can I make a perception check to see if there's anything we haven't noticed?
You can. I'm gonna add the last die to the attention pool. Roll your perception check.
Cool.
Oof.
A modest 16.
A modest 16. All right, with your perception check of 16, you do not see any other creatures in the area or anything that's going to attack you. As you're looking around, you can see, you're closer now, so you can definitely see more detail on Dew Bumblefoot. There, those scorch marks kind of climbing up her arms and down her legs. She has kind of like a tortured look on her face, like mouth open for a scream. Her wings are kind of shredded and tattered. And then you can see that the circle, there are definite indications of charring around the magical lines. Like, energy has been through this arcane circle and has done damage to even the stone, the level of power that's gone through this circle. You are not able to see any other details that are up there with you, but looking way, way, way down from where you are towards the bottom of the city, there are things you can see now that were not illuminated as well before because the sun wasn't up the whole way. Or maybe you passed over them in your early recon or whatever it is. But for whatever reason, you can now see, looking down, a little bit of a glint on the ground that indicates there's some wetness there that the light is reflecting back off of. And those are the additional details that you can see. You head back over to Owlin without incident, but I am going to clear the 6 die in the attention pool.
Oh, okay.
amazingly, there are no complications.
Yay. Yeah, I go back to Alan and I hand him the piece of paper with the magic circle that I scribbled. This is what it looks like. I couldn't figure it out.
Interesting. I will see if I can suss out any of it, and Alan will.
Is your plan to just take as long as it takes to identify it, or are you trying to do other things, and this is just part of your plan?
Maybe not take. Like, if it takes an unreasonable amount of time, then
Here's what I'll offer you. Either
Okay.
way, you're going to roll an Arcana check.
yeah.
If your plan is to take as long as it takes, then every 5 on your Arcana check is an hour of time passed. If instead you want to try and decipher it quickly, you can roll with the potential of failure with the high DC to understand what the thing is. But every time you fail, I'm going to add a die to the tension pool.
Could I assist?
See.
No.
Okay.
No. The goal is to decipher it quicker.
Okay.
I'm
So-
keeping an outlook.
Gosh dang it, that's a 10.
That's a 10.
Ooh.
Alan's looking down at the paper and trying to figure out what he sees here, and so you're not looking up and you don't see the first indication that the weather has changed. Almost as if some outward entity summoned it from nowhere, a freak hailstorm begins. And shards of ice, loud, echoing shards of ice ringing, around, thunderously ringing around the cone, which is basically just channeling the sound in this huge echo chamber. An experience which Jake is intimately familiar with.
For the Rod of
Hail
Intelligence,
slamming down towards you. Yes, the Rod of Intelligence. What?
can I re-roll, or do I
You
have
can
to
roll
decide
again.
beforehand?
You can roll
Okay.
again, but here's the tension roll for your first failure.
Okay.
Okay, so
Well, the rod lets you re-roll him a number intelligence checks a number of times a day. Is what he was
Oh,
asking.
I see. That's what you meant. You meant, can you use that ability to re-roll it?
Yeah.
Sure. Yep. I'll clear
Thanks.
this tension die and
All
you
right,
can roll
thanks.
again. Yep.
Let's pretend I said nothing, actually.
So either way, that one's a fail.
Yep.
Jeb's little head pops out. He's like, no.
Oh, and this time it's a complication. Things are worse. I'm not going to let them be worse when you use your super cool magic power, so that's fine. The first tension die is not a complication.
All right, well, Alan is stumped.
Hail is slamming down towards you. You may roll another check to try and decipher it. It's only been like 5 minutes now. You know what I
Okay,
mean? That's what
okay.
I'm saying. So the risk reward here is time. So
Okay,
you're working faster.
he'll try again.
Okay.
It's
What the
okay,
heck?
guys. This
What'd you
No,
roll?
that's an 8. I did 2 worse.
It's an 8. Another failure as the tension in the room mounts. You begin to feel like you're hearing weird voices just kind of like whispering around the cave. But it might just be carried in the awful noise of this hail slamming around you. As the hail is raining down, you can see that unimpeded, it's slamming into that magic circle. And so there are big like hailstones that are just bouncing off of Do Bumblefoot right now. Where she appears to be trapped, and there's the landing on the ground beneath. You begin to hear the sound of splashing from way down at the bottom, rather than an indication that they are hitting stone at the bottom of the city. They seem to be hitting liquid of some kind.
Alan is gonna third tries the charm. This is it.
This is the one, he says.
No, it's not actually. Why? What is going on?
Alan again fails,
9.
and we roll another tension die. The
Okay.
situation continues to mount. Radford's got a hand up.
upon hearing the splash, does Radford can I scope the ground in the corners of the rocks and the crevices? Does he detect any grime or slimy residue?
Yes. Yes, he does.
Hey, boss. This is probably what broke Alan's concentration this last time. There's an aboleth down here somewhere. It's probably down at the bottom in the Underdark. And he's like,
The rain continues.
Rubs his fingers
or
together.
The hail, I should say, continues slamming down through, because the whole city is shaped like a cone. It's not actually hitting you, and you can see it's well illuminated by the little beams of light coming down. Although those are obviously dimmed and grayed by the clouds. You can see the hail, some of it again slamming into that plinth, more of it slamming down. You're starting to hear more splashing and less stone.
Is the if we peer down, does it look like the water is rising?
It does. It looks
Yeah,
like the
okay.
bottom 5 feet of the city are fully submerged now, and the water is continuing to climb towards you. You're a good half a mile up. It's not rising very fast, but
Okay. Alan is gonna hand the drawing back to Zopf.
Zop, if you want to take another stab at it, you may.
I would love to.
Okay.
I am sorry. I for some reason cannot make heads or tails of it. It is not your fault.
I'm guessing a 13 won't do it.
No, it won't. Because we're
That's-
rolling
yeah, that
another
was rolled
tension
before.
die. Nope,
Okay.
still no complication. Dang.
With the rising water and the potential
try
imminent
one more
threat
time?
of an aboleth, while you try one more time, I think it's time for us to do what we do worst and go ahead and just go and figure out what the hell is going on over there. And Alan will signal to everyone that he's gonna engage the big stone bridge.
Okay.
Will an 18 do it?
An 18 will do it as Owlin hits the button or really lifts the button off of being depressed, lifts up this section of wall.
Yeah.
His artificer or his barbarian muscles kind of flexing, lifts it up. You hear this loud ka-chung that reverberates throughout the cavern, even louder than the hail splashing incessantly in the rising water beneath you. And the ground beneath you begins trembling. The whole plinth feels almost like it's going to drop off of the wall as this bridge, this massive stone bridge is extended on rough wheels of stone that are not perfectly smoothed. It just kind of begins to stretch out of the wall. Impressively, their machinery still works after who knows how many thousands of years. But the bridge continues reaching out towards the front. And as that's happening, Zopf has a breakthrough. Zopf, it's a 5th level evocation. The foundational spell is Wall of Force. And that's obviously the circle is doing more to it. And you don't decipher all of it, but you see a lot of things that look like they belong in, books that nobody reads. You're seeing some indications that there's some damage of most types of magic in there. Evocation is the kind of magic you would use to an Eldritch Blast is an evocation, things like that. So you're seeing generated natural damage in there, lightning and fire and ice. You're seeing fail safes where if one of the runes fails, the other runes explode. You're seeing all kinds of stuff built on top of this, but at its core, it's a Wall of Force.
Okay, Zop will relay this to Alan as we're moving across.
As you follow the bridge, are you staying at the end of the bridge closest to the plinth, or are you waiting for it to extend and then sprinting across?
Alan will wait for it to extend. He doesn't want to this is old machinery. He doesn't want to stand at the edge of it and egg it on to fail in some way.
Great. It takes about 10 minutes. 10
Holy cow.
awful, agonizing minutes as this thing slowly reaches for the center plinth.
Well, and then in that
the
case,
water is
Alan,
climbing.
that is tough.
The water makes
That's
it up
tough.
probably the first 50 feet of the city, and then with a bone-jarring thud that you feel in your ribs, and it kind of wavers through both plinths, the town square and the area you're standing on. The bridge slams in, and you can actually hear the stone edge click into something waiting for it, and the bridge stops moving, and the hail continues slamming down, and the sound getting louder and louder. The bridge is out there, the water is climbing. Radford has a hand up. Yes, Radford.
Seeing that it's moving so slowly, could we have jumped onto the bridge and rode it over?
Sure. And when it's wide enough that when it impacts at the other end, it's not going to shake you off, but I do want a strength save to keep your feet.
Yeah, I probably would have said differently if I knew it was going to take 10 minutes. I think that was
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm flying.
Okay. Well, then you don't need to make a strength save to keep your feet. But you are
16.
flying. Okay. 16's
17.
enough. 17's enough. All of you make it over there. You do take 5 points of hail damage as you move into this massive freak hailstorm that came from nowhere. The the bridge connecting beneath you. You can hear the stones thudding into the water beneath. The hail is falling heavily enough that it's starting to dislodge little, like, it's not breaking any of the actual structures, but loose pebbles that were already loose are getting pushed off of the town square and like dislodged down to the ground. You now are standing there again in front of you, the teeny tiny body of Dew Bumblefoot at the center of this arcane circle, maybe 1.5 feet from head to toe, and then the magic circle. You've got the fangs or the claws reaching out of the town square, and Zopf has a hand up. Yes, Zopf.
Okay, so I'd like to use one of my oceans, but first I want to know what the process of editing the circle would be to a different spell. What would it require?
It would be the series of checks we talked about already.
Okay.
With you would have to justify a skill to me, and if you can't justify a relevant skill, then you wouldn't be able to attempt it.
Okay. I was thinking using an Arcana skill because I will be using or creating a rune of a spell that I know.
Do you have a tool or some implement with which you can modify the runes that are written in the ground?
I have my emerald pen with infinite ink.
Sure, you can use that to give it a try. The DC is going to be high.
Just sketching over it.
You're trying to use a pen to etch something into stone. That's going to be pretty challenging. But I'll let you try it.
Okay.
You're trying to modify a 5th level evocation spell, Wall of Force. What are you trying to turn it into?
Teleportation circle.
Which is a what level? What school?
Conjuration.
Okay, conjuration, and what level?
5th level.
Good.
Yeah,
That's
level.
good. That's
okay,
good.
great. So, and it's conjuration, and it's a different spell. So that's 2 checks you need to succeed on before the work here is done.
I say good thing it's not another level because that would have been 3 checks.
Because you are taking the lead on this, if Alan wants to assist you with his artificer's tools, I will let you roll it with advantage.
Yes.
Okay.
Alan will definitely assist in that and kind of recommend Radford kind of is just vigilant while
Okay.
we
Then-
do this.
The
Radford.
ocean would be. Sorry.
No, that's fine. We
No,
trigger
you
an
go ahead.
ocean
You're
here.
doing the thing.
Go ahead.
Okay.
We're in the past.
The oceans would be used at the campfire that night. He would have scribbled his teleportation circle at where we had camp. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
When he does
Oh,
it up
so
here,
smart!
It's gonna teleport us back to where we camped.
Okay. Roll an Arcana check. That's the skill we'll use for your circle back there. The DC to beat here with no pressure and in a spot where you're not modifying anything is much lower.
Okay. That is with advantage of 14.
Oh yeah, easy. You're able to scribe out the arcane circle, no problem at all. And as you remember that confidently in your mind, you flash back to the present where you're going to attempt to create this new circle. Everybody roll initiative.
Oh my.
Ooh.
As an inhuman growl rings around the space you're in.
11.
5.
22.
Nice.
No, 23.
Even nicer.
Alan 11.
24.
Zopf
No, I'm
was a
just kidding.
5. Radford was a 22.
23.
23.
24.
25.
Okay, we're in turn order here. Alan and Zopf are working together, so you'll both use Alan's initiative of 11 unless you're, broken out of what you're doing.
Okay.
So Radford's there, and I need to roll a couple things here for some other initiatives.
No, you don't need.
Bradford tightens up his belt, like the big. Yeah, he's got like a big thing around his waist that kind of like holds on his gourd and his roll.
Gotcha.
And
Oh, sorry.
he slides down the top of his vest, so like his chest is exposed, and you can see there's this big sprawling black tattoo up the right side, up the left side of his chest that reaches down to his shoulder. It looks like this, like a claw, like a big stretched out hand that is like resting on his shoulder and comes down to his heart.
And as he takes his place, Radford is the first one to see something happening. Owlin and Zop are both maybe bent over the foundational rune of this arcane circle. The hail slamming down upon you deals another 5 hit points of hail damage this round as we enter our turn-based combat. And looking up through the hail towards the sun, Radford, you see like a little flash of something, a little flicker of something move across. And then you see in the darkness next to one of those shafts of light, you see the hulking form of a shadow creature diving towards you, chains flaring behind its body as it takes a ready position. This is the only one with a higher initiative than you. And as it's falling towards you, right as you take up a ready position to attack it, it disappears from your view and appears right behind you. It's going to attack you with its chain. This is a roll to hit. That's a 23 to hit.
That hits.
Okay, it's going to hit you with its chain. I'll roll damage. We're rolling stone dice tonight, a gift of my father's to me.
We will blame him for our deaths.
Yeah, you can blame him for the 11 points of slashing damage that the chain does, as this one is swung across you, so it kind of swings across your chest with a swing. And then as a bonus action, it's going to attack you with its second chain. This is a roll to hit. Oh, that was almost a 4, but landed on an 18 on the die, which is going to be a 21 to hit for this second attack.
That hits.
It deals 13 points of damage. This time force damage as it goes for like a hit straight to your chest. It's basically forcing the chain towards you the same way it would have killed the previous member of the Society of the Silver Sky. And that brings us to Radford's turn in the combat order. Radford, you've got 90 seconds or so.
He plants his foot out in front of him and spins around to face towards this creature. And you see the tattoo in his arm surge down the length of his hand. And he is going to slash out at it in this big manifested, dark, almost cold energy claw just across him. That's going to do 27 to hit with my Eldritch Claw.
27 to hit's gonna do it. What kind of damage is it?
Cold damage.
Cold damage, okay.
I think it's cold damage. No, it says force damage.
Okay, you hit it with force damage.
All right. That is 5, 10, 11 points of bludgeoning damage or slashing damage from the claw, and then 3 force damage on top of that.
The claw slashes across the creature, and it almost feels like you clearly it's corporeal and you hit it and you do damage to it, but it also feels like the claw doesn't meet enough resistance. Like you fly through it really fast, and as it does, it tears an actual piece of shadow out of the creature, and as that piece of shadow is flung to the ground, it dissipates in a little poof, and you hear a fluttering of wings as a whole group of butterflies just emerge out of the landing point and then kind of disappear and vaporize into air. The creature gives an inhuman like growl and kind of shrieks and looks towards you with hatred in its deep dark eyes, black on black. Anything else in your turn?
Oh yeah. We're not. Old man's doing it. We're not done yet. And I'm going to flurry of blows. 2 more attacks at him.
Okay.
That's really good. That's a 20 to hit, not unnatural 20.
Okay.
And a 17 to hit.
The 20 hits, the 17 does not.
All right. And then that is 11 points of damage. One of them is force.
Okay.
And then he's going to like through this motion, he's gonna like dance his way back, like do these crazy little almost drunken steps
Okay.
and break away from him about 30 feet.
Great. So Radford hits him with his claw, and then hits him with a fist, and then kind of dances backwards to get away. Or maybe 2 fists. Was that 2 flurries?
They were all 3 with the maul. I can
Okay.
do it with any attack now.
Got it. Okay, so you just like beat him up with this maul and then kind of dance back away from him. Each time a little piece of shadow is torn off or punched through or whatever from the creature, each time it evaporates into a different sensation. At one point you smell freshly baked bread. Another time you hear like a hellhound barking and snarling as the shadow pieces disappear into the chaos energy that created this creature. And that's going to conclude Radford's turn, and it's going to bring us to 2 more shadow creatures, which leap.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I have multi-attack now. So I get 1 more hit. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Oh, that's a 26 to hit.
Well, that's going to do it.
And that's another 3 plus 6. That's another 9 points of damage.
Another 9 points of damage. You absolutely just rip chunks and chunks out of this thing. At one point, you feel like you're about to sever its arm at the shoulder, and it kind of reforms, like more shadow stretches out. But you've done enough damage that you can see the creature gets thinner as the chaos energy inside is kind of spread out to rebuild the form that it's attacking you with. So you are like you're doing damage. This would be the equivalent of having drawn first blood in this fight. You've kind of done a little bit around half its hit points as you slash through it one more time before dancing back to safety. Then you hear the answering growls of 2 more of the creatures as they leap from the left and right side of the plinth. One of them swings its chain around one of the big like upward obelisks, the teeth or the claws jutting out of the edge, uses that to pull itself down and lands crouched like a gargoyle on it, watching intently over the whole fight. The other creature comes towards you, and then right as it looks like it's about to engage you in a fight, it instead uses a teleport ability, and it appears like opposite you and towards Zopf and Owlin. It has not engaged them in a fight yet. It's just landed there, and it appears to be readying an attack. Both of them seem to have kind of delayed their combat actions for the moment. And that brings us to Owlin's turn. Owlin and Zopf are working together, so maybe if you guys want to alternate who's rolling or something like that.
I was about to say, if we have to make 2 checks, then Owlin would gladly take one of them, and he would make the argument for if he could use investigation on his roll, because his goal here is to investigate and find the specific parts of the circle that he can easily make the least amount of changes, but to change the most about the spell. So he's investigating for those points where he can use his Artificer's tools, like kind of the shortest distance between 2 points on these runes that he can modify.
I will totally accept that. So Owlin can roll investigation, and Zopf can roll Arcana or whatever skill you had justified. Yeah.
Arcana.
Great.
Dirty 20 on
Okay.
Owlin's.
Owlin, as he's investigating, identifies the right point and begins carving out the rune, but something happens. Maybe his Artificer tools slip, maybe he realizes he has the wrong implement chosen or something like that, but he's going to have to try again in the next round. You found the spot you need, and you can roll it with advantage next time, but you did not successfully alter the spell. Zopf, what did you roll? 18. Zopf has a similar situation where like you already know where the root of the spell is, but it's hard to do this with a pen. You're like trying to you don't need it to go deep. It just needs to be deep enough to leave a groove in the stone. So it can be done with a pen, but it's going to be challenging, and you haven't quite hit the end of that challenge point. And so that brings us to the final shadow creature in initiative order, which is going to appear in a burst of hail right next to Radford. And it's going to attempt to engage Radford in a grapple. Radford, acrobatics or athletics, as it tries to wrap its chain around you and imprison you.
Saving throw, right?
Yes. Well, it's acrobatics or athletics.
Acrobatics. That's the same thing. 21.
Yeah, okay. 21's going to beat its 18. So it takes a swing at you, but Radford is easily able to dodge out of the way. Radford is in his zone right now between the Maul, and he's already danced away from the other combatants, so he knows his surroundings. And so as this creature swings a chain to try and ensnare you, Radford is able to jump out of the way without hitting you with the chain. It can't get the bonus attack for a second chain, so it's not going to do that. And that brings it to the end of its turn and up to the top of initiative with the first shadow creature, the one who's been fighting Radford. It kind of sets its feet, growls, and you can see its hands erupt in claws. Way more claws than it should have fingers, probably 10 or 11 of them, as it leaps towards you. 10 on each hand, I should say. As it leaps towards you, kind of these swirling hands. They almost look like the teeth of a shark or something like that as they come close, trying to just encase that maul that Radford's been using to hit it. It's going to roll to hit. And it rolled a 14, which is, I'm sure, not enough.
Nope.
Okay, so it attacks you, but Radford, again, dances dexterously out of the way of it. It's going to use its teleport ability and disappear into another shadowy spot as the hail continues falling. Also, as this is the beginning of a new round, everybody takes 5 points of hail damage. As the hailstorm continues slamming down into you, you notice that even the shadow creatures are having little bits of them ripped off and erupting into, the sight of a boat quickly roaring over the waves before it dissolves into dust, or into the sounds of, some kind of strange arcane engine humming with energy, or all kinds of different things. So it's now attempting to hide from you. It's rolled a stealth check, and that brings us to Radford's turn.
Okay. So paint me a picture. Where are we on the battlefield?
Radford, you're standing near but not close enough to run to them this round to...
I can run to them.
Well, okay, maybe as a monk. But a normal creature would not be an immediate distance of them. There are 4 shadow creatures engaged in the fight. You know where one of them is. It's right behind you trying to grapple you with a chain. You know that there is another crouched on top of one of the pillars or the obelisks at the edge of the stage, and it has not entered the fight as far as you can tell. It's delaying an action or waiting for something in particular to happen. Another is standing about equidistant between Zopf and Owlin. It's clearly worrying about those two and not looking at you. And the final 4th one is hiding and will require a perception check to find.
Okay, and the one that's behind me is not the one that I pummeled.
No, the one you pummeled is hiding now.
Okay. I'm going to... Radford is bleeding quite profusely from these claw marks, and especially that hail bash. He's going to take a stance and collect his key, and I'm going to use Quickened Healing and get back some HP.
Excellent.
That's not as much as I wanted, but we're going to take it. And then he's going to use a bonus action, burn a key point for patient defense. And that would actually bring me down to that. And he's going to make his way to the one that is in between Owlin and Zopf. And just, engage it. Just post up.
Got it.
So he's ready so that if it moves, he gets to deal with it.
Follow your progress, and you're certain you've got its attention. That ends.
How far away is he from it?
He's probably...
He's got 45 feet of movement.
Oh, yeah, he's probably 20 feet away. Close enough. Immediate distance for his next turn.
Could he be 15 feet away from me?
That's fine with me. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you, DM.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, DM.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Appreciate that, DM.
The next 2 shadow creatures are going to take their turns. One of them is staring right at Radford, and as Radford comes towards it and it appears to engage it in the fight, It clearly is like, all right, I'll take that bait. And it drops into a crouch, propels itself forwards, and flings both chains out as one attack. This is its multi-attack. It's going to roll to hit you twice with each, once with
It's
each
going to
chain.
do that with disadvantage because of his patient defense.
Okay, here's the first roll with disadvantage. Okay, that's an 8, I should say, on the first roll. So that's not going to do it. Here's the second roll with disadvantage. With disadvantage, that's a... Oh, come on, dude. Do math. It's a 17.
Ah, 17 is my AC.
And the attacker wins in the tie. So one chain still thuds right into Radford and deals 15 points of damage, all force damage. Radford, roll a strength check to keep your feet as it's going to try and push you backwards away from the two that you might be protecting.
Strength save, you said?
Yes.
22.
Radford doesn't even get pushed back, much less have to worry about keeping his feet. The chain hits you,
Can I
and it
grab
hits
the
you
chain?
hard. But you know what? That's cool. Roll a dexterity save to grab the chain. That's pretty dope.
That is a 15 plus 9. So like 24?
24, easily. And with a 24, not only do you grab the chain, you clock the poison spikes on the end of it and grab it somewhere else. And so you don't have to
Nice.
make the con save against poison, and you know that at least this one, and probably all of them, have poison tipping the spikes of their chains.
Oof. They're poisoned. Don't let them hit you.
Okay, so you're
If
holding on.
I draw the line here, I think I can make.
Yeah, you're holding on to the chain. The other one that's turn it is going to rush towards Zop, who it now has realized, oh, what they're trying to do is alter the circle. That won't do. So he's going to teleport off of the statue or the tower that he's on. He's going to appear directly in front of Zop, and he's not going. It's not like a coordinated attack. It's like he's going to try and whip the chain out to knock you away from the circle. Zop, you are tiny, so he's going to roll this attack with disadvantage, or size category small, I should say. So he's going to roll this attack with
Plus
disadvantage.
strength,
And let's see how he does. That's a 10 to hit. Does he hit you?
Miss.
You're
It
muted.
misses. It misses.
It misses you. Okay, so he attacks you, but it swings right over your head. You feel a brief respite from the hail as this chain swirls through the hailstorm, and the wind of it, brushes against your wings. But you are like bent over almost like the "oh look, a penny" kind of gag joke, where
Yeah.
it whips over your head, where you might have been if you were a little taller. And because it didn't hit you with the first attack, it gets no bonus attack. We move on to Owlin and Zop, who are both trying to do their thing.
I think I've found it. I just need to make the marking.
Could I switch to a knife instead of the pen?
Absolutely. You can still roll normally, Trevor. Jake, go ahead and roll with advantage because Owlin's got his artificer's tools and he's now he's at the right spot. He's pulling out he's going to do the thing.
18.
18. Owlin has the right tool out, but now it's the hail and the fact that there was a fight right over Zopf that distracted him briefly. He looks up and sees that.
What is
happening,
this
looks back
insane
down.
DC that a dirty 20 and an 18 couldn't get? That's what I'm wondering.
I'll be transparent about the DC because it is like a make or break moment. The DC is a 21. I kid you not. And
Zop did
that's-
not do it.
Okay, Zopf didn't get it either. So that brings us to the final shadow creature. The one that is hidden is going to stay hidden. We don't know what it's doing because none of us can see it, and it hasn't attacked any of you. Brings us to the top of initiative order. As we get to the top of initiative order, you hear the sound of the hail begin to drain out, and you get the sense that this is the end of that freak storm, or as it's blowing over, this is the last round that you'll have to deal with it. 5 more points.
Hell
Actually,
yeah.
4 points of damage as the hail is slowing down in pace. And you also hear, the clattering of the hail landing in the water below. You haven't checked in a while. You don't know how high up that water is, but the hail has stopped falling in it, and now you can begin to hear the trickling, bubbling noises of water slowly, slowly climbing the inside of the inside of the city as this abandoned city is flooded. It's going to bring us to the top of initiative order, where Radford is holding. You're holding his chain. So Radford, I'll actually let you go first.
I want to try and, like, Mario and King Bowser this guy off the edge.
Just like fling him by his chain.
Yeah, just like swing him around a couple times and throw him and let him loose.
Okay. You can use athletics if you're trained in it, or strength if you're not.
I don't want to do that then.
You could try and justify another skill if you want.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
It would have been fun, but yeah, he needs to stay in his wheelhouse. He's like, oh man,
It's like
if I was Alan,
stay in your lane.
if I was Alan, I would have totally done that, and it would have been rad.
Ferd.
Instead, he's going to like drop the chain and run up it and just kick this dude
Oh, right
clean
in the
face.
Love
Yeah.
it. Okay. Go ahead and roll the hit. You can roll with advantage because you were already, like, you've got a ramp right to the creature. So it's not like it's going to dodge out of your way.
29.
Easy.
And when he does kick, the tattoo sucks up into his arm and goes down his leg and out his leg and whoom, kicks across this guy before he even gets there. It's got a 15-foot range. It just reaches out and just across him. And that is going to be 4 plus... Oh, that's 10 points of damage. And then I'm going to flurry a blow. We'll do my
Purely
second
for
attack.
the sake of flavor, is this a roundhouse kick or a side kick? Like, are you kicking straight or across?
He's doing the thing where it's like he comes at it from the side and then spins around from the back and then does another kick, and it's like just like 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, yeah. Love that. So he almost makes like a little tornado of Radford spinning around
Yeah,
this
exactly.
shadow creature.
As this, as his like his maul is just like whipping out around it.
Yeah.
That's a 29 to hit. I rolled a 19.
Easy.
And then I'm just gonna do the next ones. That's a 13 to hit.
Okay.
Does that one hit?
No.
I can dump key points into my attacks to make them hit.
Okay.
So I am going to... Where is that one?
So you've done like 20 points of damage already, haven't you? Something like that?
I haven't rolled damage yet. Oh, no, I did.
The first
10
one was
damage.
10, and then the second one...
Yeah, let me roll the damage on the
was a
second
hit.
one. Oh, wow, that's 8 plus 6.
Okay, so
So
that's 24 so
14.
far. Yep, 24 so far.
14. And... Oh, that's a natural 20.
Natural 20, let's go!
So I rolled double dice, right?
Yeah, you do.
So that's 4d6. That's 10, 14 plus 6. So 20 points of damage.
So you've done 50 points of damage so far.
How's he looking?
As you land that final kick, you actually feel the give in the center of the creature as the whole thing bursts into limbo energy. You are briefly surrounded by chaotic manifestations. Make a dexterity save.
Can he try to, like, absorb some of it?
You mean like take control?
Like through his key? Can he, like, latch onto that energy?
To try and manifest it into something new?
To try to manifest it into his maul.
Oh, I see. To like keep it and use it as damage later?
Yeah.
No, because I didn't build that mechanic and I don't want to unbalance it.
Okay,
I have
no
a
worries.
mechanic for trying to reform them into something new, but I don't have one for trying to absorb that energy.
Okay, no worries. No worries. I tried. You said a dex save?
Yeah, dex save.
18.
18. You don't take any damage, but you can feel the heat of a fire juxtaposed with the cold of ice right next to the sound of a thunderclap exploding as you kind of dive out of the field of explosion here. Talk to us about his cool hero landing, and then we'll move to the next turn.
I was going to say, he lands with his back to it and does that thing where he's just kind of like looking to the side with his arms at rest to each side and does like the big Neo breath in and exhale into
Nice.
his stance, and then he forms up and like turns to the next one.
Yep, he forms up and turns to the next one, which happens to be on the other side of Zop from you. And it's going to take its turn now. There are two of them between or no, that was one of the ones between. So this is the only one before Owlin and Zopf have another go.
I just want to make sure I'm moved like near them. So
Yep.
just however I need to position to get close
Yeah,
to
you
them.
position yourself so you're ready to go. This one's going to take another shot at knocking Zopf back. So it's going to roll to hit. It has the same disadvantage because Zopf is teeny.
And
Rolls to hit.
Oh, that was almost a natural 20.
That one at the bottom is a natural 20, but the other one's a natural
Oh, dang.
1. So
Ooh.
it rolled a
Snap.
natural 1.
Disadvantage.
It attacks Zopf, and its chain swings out far enough that Radford has another dex chance to grab it.
I was gonna say, can I
and
grab
it's
it?
turned Now, yep, that'll be the nat 1 punishment.
That's a 13 plus 9, 22.
13 plus 9, 22. As
Can I-
Radford's hand swings out and grabs hold of it.
If this acts like an attack towards Radford, could I use my reaction to throw it back at him?
Yeah, that's amazing. It's like
Because technically it would be like a deflect missile.
Yeah, Radford flows through a couple steps of like a martial arts form where he catches it, spins around, and returns the chain at force.
Natural 20, baby.
Let's go! Natural 20 as the chain zooms back towards the shadow creature.
I think it's the damage of whatever that thing is.
Oh, okay. Do you roll or does the attacker roll?
If you catch the missile in this way, you can. This got a range. You attack with the weapon. You make this attack with proficiency regardless of your weapon. Okay, so I'll make an attack back at him. Well, and I did the natural 20.
Okay,
And
so,
it counts as a monk weapon.
so you're going to roll 2d10 and 2d8.
Nice.
Because it's a d10 and a d8 is the normal attack.
There
that
you
is
go.
a lot of damage.
Nice.
I know, he says, and he's got like scratches all across him. That is help me out, guys. That is a 9 plus 7
16.
plus 7
23.
Let's go, chat.
plus 3.
Chat redeems hit harder, which I think
26.
doubles your damage.
Plus, okay, so that's 26 plus his proficiency bonus. So he gets the 5 plus 1. So that's an extra 6 damage on top of that.
So
Okay.
it's
2.
64.
64 damage. So remember, this is all attacks. Hero and villain deal double damage. But Radford just dealt 64 points of damage to the shadow creature as he throws the chain back and it just explodes through the center of the creature. The chain itself dissolving into like a burning ring of fire that, you know, goes down, 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 and the flames go higher.
Nice.
And it just dissipates in this wave of shadowy energy, and you have this brief moment of silence and stillness where the only remaining shadow creature is hidden stealthily, and we zoom in on Zopf and Owlin, who are still hunched over their tools, trying desperately to alter this arcane circle from the outside.
Wait, nope. It was actually over here. That is where I should have drawn that line.
I got a natural 20 this time.
Let's go!
There we go.
And
Finally.
Alan got a 24.
Both
There
of
we
you,
go.
both of you,
go.
spurred on by the incredible carnage that Radford is single-handedly wreaking against the shadow creatures, you easily easily, it took you 3 rounds, but you now that the hail stopped, which was probably, you know, your hands were shaking in the hail, obviously you had no issues.
No.
You are able to, both of you alter the circle into a circle of teleportation. And I need to look up that spell really quick just to make sure I fully understand it. This spell instantly transports you and up to 8 willing creatures of your choice that you can see within range, or a single object you can see within range to a destination you select. If you target an object, it must be able to fit entirely inside a 10-foot cube, and it can't be held or carried by an unwilling creature.
This is what spell are you reading?
Teleport?
It's
Oh, that's a
teleportation circle.
Yeah, I see. I was like, wait, this is 7th level. Okay, teleportation circle. As you cast the spell, you draw a 10-foot diameter circle on the ground with sigils that link your location to a permanent teleportation circle of your choice, whose sigil sequence you know, and that is on the same plane of existence as you.
And that's at our
A
campsite.
shimmering portal opens within the circle you drew and remains open until the end of your next turn. Any creature that enters the portal instantly appears within 5 feet of the destination circle in the nearest unoccupied space if that space is occupied. Many major... Okay, blah, blah, blah. And then there's stuff about those.
Yeah.
So any creature can enter the circle and appear on the other side, and it brings your possessions or things you're holding.
But I can dismiss it at any time.
Right. Okay. So you both get it right, and you feel yourselves get it right because suddenly, instead of being powered by Wingle digits or whatever they had to bring to activate this thing in the past, Owlin, you feel the surge of energy come out from the rod that you've got. I don't know if you're holding it or if it's strapped to you or whatever.
It's always on my belt.
But you feel the surge of energy kind of jump down from there as the weave activates it. The teleportation circle glows a sudden shimmering silver as it shines in front of you, and you actually hear like a soft sort of like metallic, like kind of tinging noise as the magic kicks back into action. The stone underneath creaks from all of its scorch damage and stuff as the magic is activated. Critically, from the outside of the teleportation circle, you notice that Dew Bumblefoot does not teleport. The Dew Bumblefoot was, remember, laying kind of like petrified, almost screaming, looking up towards the scale of stars. Dew Bumblefoot's arms and legs have fallen flat, but she is not moving. And that's what you see as the two of you finish those turns. And I guess you technically have move actions before we jump
I say,
forwards.
if Alan can spend his move, he'd like to pick up Dew Bumblefoot and step through the portal that appears.
Dew is on the ground at the center of the portal, but you can leap over there and grab her, sure.
Like she's in the middle of the portal, but still not
The
teleporting?
portal is on the ground. It's like a big circle.
The portal
on
is
the
a
ground.
circle on the ground,
Oh.
Alan. So
Okay, well then Alan's just gonna try to like sort of jump through it and take Dew with, basically.
Sure, yeah.
Like,
So
like
you
basically
leap,
like
it's like a dive
yeah.
almost, like a swan dive through
Yeah.
Dew Bumblefoot. So you leap, you wrap your arms around what you now feel is a cold body, and you pass through the teleportation circle, landing with a thud on the ground, right? Because you're now dropping with like a thud on the ground and kind of rolling out of the teleport circle next to you. Is Zopf also going through?
Can Zop like drag Radford? Like I know he can't pick him up.
Zopf
but,
is
like,
nowhere
drag him through.
near tall or strong enough to do that. No.
Yeah, okay. Zop will just jump through.
Okay. Zopf jumps through it. So now it's just Radford and a single shadow creature with a teleportation circle.
Did Dew come with me when I took her through? Okay.
Yeah. You're
Or
carrying. Yes.
Did Dew's corpse come with me? All right.
Yes. And so it is just Radford and this shadow creature. The shadow creature looks towards Radford, drops to one knee, like it's kind of left stealth mode. You've keyed into it, drops to one knee and propels itself towards you, like it's going to try and prevent you from getting onto the circle of teleportation. So it's trying to not touch the ground as it leaps ridiculously far towards you. Its mouth open in this awful guttural growl noise, and both chains flung towards you, their poison spikes glistening as it attacks you. It's going to roll to hit.
Radford mutters under his breath while he sees this flying towards him. This injustice is mine.
It rolled a 15 and an 8.
It misses, so I'm going to use my reaction to grab them and
Awesome.
deflect missiles again.
Awesome. You fling them both back towards the creature.
22 to hit.
22 to hit hits. Wow, what about the second one? There are 2 of them here. Or can you only do it once?
It's only once.
Okay, so you fling one of them back and you just dodge the other one.
Yeah. So that's 2d8 and 2d10.
Is hit
It's
harder
one
still active?
1d8 and 1d10 is the normal attack.
Oh, right,
It's 'cause
right,
you
because it's
crit
not
before.
crits. Yep.
Is
That's
hit
2
harder still
7s.
active?
Yes, hit harder is still active, so we'll double whatever this damage is.
So 14 to 24 damage.
Okay, 24 damage as you hit this one, and you realize as the chain slams into it, the spikes kind of, punching through a shoulder. This is the one you had started fighting. This one is wearied and thinned, but you still have not quite gotten it to the point of death. As it races towards you, its momentum suddenly arrested in midair. It runs into its own chain and flips. So now it's moving feet first towards you. It's going to use its bonus action to teleport. It is not able to stealth itself, but it just teleports to the other end of the circle so that it doesn't go through and have to face your companions. It appears like a safe enough distance away from you that you can't run there this round. But still,
How far away do you think?
Probably 60, 70 feet.
Okay.
And it's laying on the ground, but it's like aware and active. It doesn't look winded or dazed or anything. Like it's probably going to hop up, next turn.
Okay. Is it Radford's turn?
Yeah.
He runs into the middle of the circle.
Yeah.
45 feet into the circle.
Yeah.
And just breathes a 30-foot line of cold at it. Just whoosh, all the way out. So it needs to make a Constitution saving throw.
Well, that won't reach it, right? Because it's on the other side.
45
It's outside the circle from you.
45 feet of movement plus a 30-foot line is
so you're
over 60
leaving
feet.
the circle. You're leaving the circle.
Oh, I thought...
It jumped over the circle at you, past you with its teleport, and is now beyond you from the circle.
I think what Wash is trying to say is that he'll get as close, like close to the portal without portaling yet. If he does his ice breath from there, will that do it?
It is 70 feet from the circle. Let's say it that way.
Okay.
Well, he can shoot him from 70 feet.
Oh, okay. Your breath just reaches 70 feet?
No, he's got 45 feet of movement and 30 feet of breath.
Okay, so yeah, he's going away from the circle towards the creature.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. How long does he know how long the circle lasts?
Until Zoph dispels it. We can assume Zoph yelled that. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, he's gonna run towards this guy.
Okay.
If that's the case, and he's gonna just run up, bonus action, step of the wind, to get right up in his face just with movement, and he's gonna smack the crap out of him.
Okay.
Keeping a 15-foot distance with his maul.
He's prone.
So
roll with
that's
advantage.
Two attacks. That's a 2 with a 15, so 25 to hit. And a 19, so 29 to hit.
Describe the killing blow.
He kind of goes, there's a little bit of a feral look in his eyes as he just, screams out, "This injustice is mine!" And he just, slams down with the claw, just, over. It's just, boom, 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 just, hammering it into the ground. It starts off kind of elegant, but it starts to get, super feral and just rips the thing apart. And then he roars and ice breath. It's just whoo, into the air.
Ice breath shoots up, and around you, little pieces of chaos manifestations just kind of appearing in the air around you. As Radford, I'm assuming, then steps back into the teleportation circle.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So Radford appears in the teleportation circle on the other side, back in your hovel where you've been holed up, and you see first that everyone in your party is alive, but you can see Owlin kind of knelt over the lifeless body of Do Bumblefoot. Owlin, you want to describe the scene for us? What Radford sees when he comes back?
Radford sees Owlin just trying. Owlin has a lot of knowledge about a lot of things, but not medical things. He's at first he tried to he has large hands compared to Do Bumblefoot. He tried to do what he can as far as CPR, what he knows of that. Nothing's happening. He even tries to cast. He can cast as a Azamar feature. What's the name of the healing spell that he can do? Healing Hands. I assume that does nothing. He's trying everything, and he just is over this body, and you can see tears coming out of his eyes, and he's just, we
have to get him back to my sister.
Are we too late? We're not. He looks up at Zopf.
Zopf is
Are we
also
too late?
sobbing. The sister might be able to help.
We have to go. We have to go. And Alan will like scoop up the tiny body and just like frantically just like we have to go. We have to. I can't be too late again. I can't be too late again. And Alan will like basically start going off in the direction where they came from to get back to
What's Radford
the
doing?
other twin.
Radford takes a second, because he knows he's faster than Alan. He can catch up. That's not a problem. He takes a second and kneels down next to the soul, the person there, and says, "I've taken care of it. Rest well." And he runs off after Alan.
And on that note, tonight's Dungeons and Dragons adventure comes to a close.
Well, you and me, at the end of the video, kinda awkward, kinda waiting for you to subscribe and all that. I'm just gonna head out.